All right, a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, or good morning in local time here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 9 of A Pilot's Life live on Twitch, here with Captain Nabs, and welcome to 2023. I hope that the new year is treating everyone well so far. I think it's going to be a good year. I want to hope it's going to be a good year because the last couple of years have had their share of issues. So we'd like it to be a better year, please. So, yeah, welcome to 2023, everybody, and welcome to another season. So just at the end of 2022, managed to just finish up the last part of my pilot's life career for season 8, flying around the CRJ for Endeavour. And as much as the CRJ was fun, there was some great stuff that happened in the tail end of 2022 that really kind of triggered me to really want to do something different. And the biggest thing of that was, first of all, the PMDG released their 737 in the middle of 2022. And then at the end of 2022, 6 months later, FS2 Crew finally released their integration package for the PMDG 737. So not only do we have the 737, we now have crew members that work with us in the 737. So I decided to take on a new career. And as you can see, we have moved up in the world. We went from flying at a small regional carrier of questionable quality, certainly in a pilot's life, up to working for, as you can see on the side of this airplane, we now work for Alaska Airlines. So one of the big five, really, in the United States is Alaska Airlines. It's a big airline. It's got lots of operations, and it's going to provide lots of interest for us. So we have a schedule already lined up for season 9. And I guess I'll put myself up there. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Hope everyone is having a great year so far. And yeah, welcome to Alaska Airlines. So let's just start with a quick little recap here of what we're going to do today. So today, if you didn't recognize it from the dreary skies up there, we are located in Seattle. SeaTac International Airport in Seattle. You can tell because it's just gray and dreary and raining. At least it was raining 5 minutes ago. Maybe it stopped again. But today's flight is going to take us from Seattle, SeaTac, down to San Francisco, SFO. It's about a 2-hour and a bit flight. And we're just going to do the one leg today. So it's going to be a little bit longer than some of the legs we've done. The last few legs have been very short. It's up and down. Very little time to chat. Today we're going to have some time to chat, hopefully. So that's going to be a nice kind of change, I think, to pace. Flying the 737, flying longer legs, you get more time to talk. A little bit, maybe perhaps more boring if you're looking for the takeoffs and the landings. But if you want to talk about aviation-related activities, this is the kind of schedule you're kind of looking for. And we have a good schedule this month. So just to give you a quick preview of what's coming up for the season 9 here, it's a bit repetitive, but not terribly repetitive. We do hit Seattle and Portland a couple of times, and even SFO, we do a second SFO turn down at the end. But it's a nice mix of different length, reasonable length flights at a bunch of different airports, but up and down the West Coast more or less here. So San Francisco, Portland, Burbank, back up to Seattle, down to LAX, through LAX down to Guadalajara. Back up through LAX to Portland to San Francisco, and then from San Francisco all the way to JFK. We're going to end with a bang, with a long one at the end of the day. But we have a real nice mix of flying here on tap for Season 9. Lots of great airports, lots of great scenery. It's going to be great because the West Coast it's beautiful from a scenery perspective. Just flying over the mountains constantly. Hopefully we'll see them today because it's not great in Seattle. Hopefully it's going to be better when we get to San Francisco, and we'll see a little something on that approach because San Francisco is always fun. And this is one of the reasons why I also started later than I normally do. So you guys know I like to start these streams kind of early in the morning. Part of it was just a personal... something came up personally for me that I couldn't even do the original time. I kind of wanted to start at 11, and then I had to push it back even a little farther because something personal came up. The reason why I'm starting a little later than I have traditionally is because now we're on the West Coast. If we were to start at, in 9 a.m., Eastern time on the West Coast, it's 6 a.m. The sun won't even be up. We'll be flying in the dark. And maybe it'll be nice on one of these times to see the sun come up. But I prefer flying in the daylight. And the other side of that too is that the later it is in the day, the more likely we are to get ATC. So especially on the West Coast at 6 a.m., you're probably not going to see too much ATC. By 9 a.m., especially on a weekend, maybe we'll see some stuff. So maybe we'll see a Seattle controller come online. I'm looking right now, and the only thing nearby online right now is Vancouver. So that's not going to help us out since we're heading south from Seattle. But certainly being a little later in the day, you're more likely to get that ATC service. So without much further ado, let's get Season 9 started. We're going to have lots of time to chat once we get up and cruise. of course, pilot's got to fuel himself before he fuels the airplane, so we need coffee. All right, so welcome aboard PMDG's 737-800 series Alaska Airlines. And we are going to let the FS2 crew, and FS2 crew makes this job really almost too easy. So let's do this. Let's call for the fuel truck.
Refueling truck is on its way.
And then while the fuel truck is coming, let's do this.
Please don't load aircraft until the fuel truck arrives and ask to do it.
Let's start setting up.
Roger.
So I've got FS2 crew up here in the corner. I might leave it up here for a little while today so you guys can see what's going on. And of course, he moves the jetway again, which is why I have my other thing in here, which is pushback helper. So because he thinks the jetway's not there, he calls it over. But it was there already. Buddy, you gotta get with the program here. So this is probably one of the most exasperating things about Microsoft Flight Simulator to date is just the stupid jetway thing. Anywho, he's going to do a lot of work for us here. So if the airplane's not powered, sorry, what am I trying to do here? This is what I'm trying to do here. If the airplane is not powered, he will power it up for us, hopefully. He's supposed to. Really? Oh, man. Supposed to start powering it up. I'm going to give him one more minute. If he doesn't want to do it, I'll do it. I know how to do it, but this FS2 crew really does a lot of the systems work, and you can change that. That's one of the great things about FS2 crew, too, is that you can always change everything. The option screen over here is absolutely huge, and there's actually 1, 2, 3 pages of option flags that you can set up FS2 crew to run how you like. You can decide if you want the FO to do... Thank you. I hope we're not going to have a connection problem all day. You can decide if you want the FO to do the initial electrical setup and all that, or whether you do it yourself. You can decide on all that. It seems like he's not going to do it today, even though he's supposed to, so we're going to go ahead and start doing it. So the first thing we're going to do is just grab that battery. Have a look. We're losing amps, 24 volts. It's okay. And we can go ahead and get the ground power on. Make sure that we have the nav light on. Other things, it's a little dark in here, honestly. Get a little bit of light going on in here. We'll get those IRSs aligning, because that's one of the most important things to do in the first step here. We'll make sure the service interphone is off. Check the flight recorder. Perfect. Check the check the overspeed. Make sure the engine controls are all on, normal. Everything is normal there. We can get the emergency lights on. We don't need to put seatbelts on quite yet. And we do need to get the windshield heat on and the packs on. Windshield heat on. Recirc fans are auto. Packs we're going to put to auto for now. And the isolation valve is open. Now he's doing it. Go figure. Now he's doing it. And the nice thing is FS2 crew is pretty smart. If you come to the plane that's already powered, he'll skip the power up part and he'll just do kind of his initial setup. So he is kind of smart like that. It's just the first time I've seen him kind of not do it within the first like 20 seconds of me starting it up. So I'm just going to get some main panel lighting because it's just darn dim here today.
Fuel truck is in position.
So just get some panel light going on here.
Please don't load aircraft until the fuel truck arrives.
See these things a little more clearly. And we're going to start setting up in a second here. So we should be able to get this airplane underway within the next 25 minutes. That's kind of the goal, the target. And I think we can do that without too much effort. So he's getting all this initial setup done, and now he's going and doing all that. And for some reason, he didn't want to do it for the first minute or so there. So, okay, whatever. All right, in the meantime, while he's doing that, we're going to start up with our FMC setup already. So we do have a 737-800 today.
Please use your airplane fuel system to set the desired fuel quantity.
That is correct. And oh, there he is. Fuel quantity. Very good question. Fuel quantity. So for today, fuel, we're looking for 8.4. Oh, hold on a second. Did I not change this? I don't think I changed this, did I? From kilograms to pounds. And I am bad at this sometimes because
I'm heading out for the walk around.
Roger.
Please use your airplane fuel system to set the desired fuel quantity.
Yeah, I did not. So give me 1 second. I did generate the flight plan, but I generated it with the wrong units. So we'll just quickly pull it up with the correct units. And it's going to be about 16, 17, 18,000 pounds, something to that effect. Seems like a lot, but if it was what was it calling for? 18,509. All right, so we'll go 18, because the fuel guy always tends to go over. They always err on the high side, so they kind of go to where they're supposed to, and they go usually at 100, 200, 300 beyond that just to make sure. So they're 18,300 pounds is the correct units for today. And most of my other airplanes I fly, well, at least the last couple I've flown have been in kilograms, so that's why the system is set in kilograms by default. Alright, let's see if we can make this a reasonable size there where you can still read it, but I can also work with this here. And the nice thing about being back in the PMDG 737 is, of course, we do have the AviaWorks tablet. It does work with our software here. So I can get the entire MCDU on my tablet here. So the database is current 29th of January to 29th of December to 26th January. That's correct. And position init on page 2, we should be able to grab a GPS position, grab either one, previous page, and plop it right onto those blank boxes. And now the IRS can initialize itself to our current position as determined by GPS. Right into the route page. I do like that the Boeing FMS tends to always lead you to the next stop, to the next step of the setup. KSEA-L1, KSFO, R1. And flight number today, it is Alaska 146 we are. It's going to be weird. It's going to take me a little while to get used to saying Alaska because I haven't changed airlines for a while. I don't think I've ever really done too much simulating of Alaska, but I like it. It's a different network. It's a fun network. West Coast is a good network because it's very, lots of great scenery, lots of slightly more challenging airports because of all the mountains around San Francisco and Los Angeles and Seattle. Definitely makes it a little bit more interesting from an operational standpoint. All right, so let's go down and find our routing here today. So we're supposed to be doing the Harrop 6 to E-Rave, and I don't even know what runway we're departing here. I guess I should probably have figured that out first. Go into my vPilot here and just get some current weather. Seattle weather, 150 at 4, so definitely that'll be a south flow today. And I believe they usually depart the inner runway, so 16 would be 16 left is usually the departure runway. Hopefully we'll get some ATC somewhere in this leg. If we don't, we'll just make do, but we'll always hope. Next page, there's the departure. Airway Quebec 1, that's easy. Down to Etchy intersection, ETCH.
Hi, the security and safety check are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Go for it.
Okay.
And when they do that, it also triggers me to request boarding from
Boarding
GSX.
requested.
Nice. All right. Quebec 1 Etchy, then direct Milbec, and the Bodega 3. MLBEC. Oops, not that side. That side. There it is. And then we can do departure arrival, San Francisco arrival, the Bodega 3, Milbec transition. And the estimate is 28 right. So I'm going to put in the ILS 28 right now. I don't know the transition, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And we will definitely have time when we're en route to finalize our arrival plans. So that all looks good. I'm going to go ahead, activate, and execute. And then again, 6R button always leads you to the next page. I love it. I love it. So ZFW. We do the easy double tap.
Board crew?
Sure. Yeah.
Pilots boarding starting.
On board. Let's see here. Estimated ZFW is going to be 133.4. According to our flight plan here, 0.4. Nope. What are you doing here? 0.4. There we go. Reserves. Back to page 1 for this. So reserves, final res plus alternate 5.2, round up to 5.3 just to be safe. Always give ourselves a little bit of time. You don't want to take it right down to that limit. Cost index is 34 in the top right corner. The planned flight levels 350. And the cruise wind, the average 250 at 49.
Boarding starting.
All right, and that is all good. So we'll execute the performance calculations and one limit. I do have a performance calculator, so let me see if I can find reasonable calculation, reasonable power settings. I did find one on my phone that I was able to download. And you can take in the ICAO, so let's do KSEA, and let's do 16 left. I'm going to say it's wet. Wind 250 at 40. No, sorry, that's the wrong wind. I'm looking at the flight plan wind. Wind is 1504. OAT is 7, and the altimeter is 2958. And takeoff weight, again, estimated to be 151, 300. Calculate that. Oh.
Your crew has boarded.
I gotta
Passengers
change to
boarding
imperial
starting.
units, and that clears out my takeoff weight. 151, I go for 400, calculate. And it gives me a flap 5 takeoff we can do. So let's do a, let's see here, it's a non-derated takeoff, but a flex of 39. So temperature of 39, non-derated takeoff, flap 5, CFG, I'm just going to copy it from the aircraft itself. And speeds, yeah, 141, 143, 150. This one has 135 because of the wet conditions. So we'll go with 135, we'll copy the 43 and the 50, because usually when you have wet conditions, it takes a little longer to stop. You get a bigger V1 VR split. Otherwise, that's good, and that is our FMS setup complete. We can go to page 2 if we want to specify anything different. So an acceleration height of 1,000 instead of 1,500, which is typical of some airlines. So we'll go with acceleration height and reduction altitude reduction. Oh, and here we go. If we do wet conditions here, and then go back to the first page, it's going to give us that speed, 134. So there we go. So
I'm
we can
back.
do it.
There are no issues on the walk around. Good aeroplane.
Perfect. All right, so he's done all of that. He's done his thing. Got back just in time for us to do our thing. Hopefully this thing will align very soon here. I'm just going to set the altimeter while I'm just looking at it here. I'm watching him. 2958 and 2958. It's nice to have that FO in this airplane because the 737 is such a manual airplane, and I know how to get the airplane going completely on my own. I don't need an FO to do it. I've flown the airplane enough times in the sim that I understand it. I understand all the systems more or less. I won't say I'm perfect or can draw them from memory, but I understand how they basically fit together and how to get through all the flows. But it is nice to have someone just do it all, because it does save 10 minutes if somebody else is doing your flow for you. Alright, so master light tested, dim switch, EFIS control panel settings. We've got that basically all set how we like it. We've got the traffic on, and actually around here we should probably have terrain on. And that's why. MCP we've got a set, so 150 is our V2. And we'll have to pull up our charts in a second here. That's the one thing I realize now I didn't prepare for ahead of time here. I didn't launch the FS2 crew charts. Oh, but they are ready to go. Nice. All right, thinking about it. This is the last flight we did there. That was the season finale of season 8 there. Haha. Seattle SFO, so now we've got everything, because I just need to know what's the runway heading first of all. So I can set it on here. That's the most important aspect right here. Is the runway heading off the 16, sorry, is 164. Just do it this way really quickly here, bring that all the way around, 164. Love it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set 49. Remind me that we don't have a clearance. If we don't get a clearance the next little while.
Hi,
Just
here's the fuel slip.
Thanks.
Welcome. Have a nice flight.
There we go. FO deals with him. I don't even care. We need to get our flight directors on. Armor auto thrust system. Probably need LNAV and VNAV for this. We're going to check the SID, and we're going to review the whole SID in a minute. Low control panel set. Oxygen checked and tested. There we go. Flight standby instruments checked. And we did. Needs to be a little dimmer, but otherwise it's good. That's a little better, so a little overly bright. It'll be better when we get above the clouds. Parking brake set. Nav radios. Don't really need for our departure today. We will get our comm radios going here on 22.8. If we do change our mind, we'll read the SID and we'll see if we do need anything. Audio control panel, make sure we do have listening on 1 and 2, transmitting on 1. Trims checked free and set to 0. Alright, so you can check the rudder trim if you want. It's a bit awkward because you can't see anything. You can't see the rudder trim while you're checking it. Or sorry, that was the aileron trim. You can't just see the aileron trim and the switch at the same time. In the real world, you have your hand down here and your eyes up here, but in the sim, you can't really do that. And verify flight plan. So we've done all of that. That's not originating check, is it? It's pre-flight checklist. Pre-flight checklist.
Pre-flight checklist. Oxygen.
Tested 100%. Tested 100%. Set and checked.
Tested 100%. Navigation transfer and display switches. Normal, auto. Window heat. On. Pressurization mode selector. Auto. Flight instruments.
Heading 028. Altimeter 2958.
Heading 028. Altimeter 2958. Parking brake.
Set.
Engine start levers.
Cut off. Cut off. Cut off.
Pre-flight checklist completed.
I found this particular FS2 crew is a tiny bit glitchy, and I don't want to be a big complainer because I do like FS2 crew in general. But I find it's been a little bit glitchy. Some of the... Just trying to line this up nicely here. Sometimes I need to repeat myself. And even though it seems to recognize the word, I seem to have to repeat myself more often than not. So a little frustrating sometimes, but overall, it's nice to have this level of immersion. Are you ready for the departure briefing?
Go ahead.
All right, mute him again. All right, so let's pull up our departure chart here. So I'm just going to hide you for a minute here. So today we're operating from Seattle, Tacoma, Washington. The taxi out to runway 16 left for departure. We're at the north satellite here at gate N10, I believe, right? Pretty much right here. So we're going to taxi out, and I believe we're going to go Bravo all the way up to Charlie to hold short of 16 left. And no hot spots along that particular route. It's just parallel to the runway the whole way. The runway's right over there. We're just parallel to it the whole time. Guys are kind of walking through the jet bridge a little bit there. Good times. Which departure are we doing here? It's the Harrop 6 RNAV departure today. There's the plate label here. Here it is. Plate 10-3 Bravo, effective on the 19th of July of 2018, so it's a little bit old. The top altitude is signed by ATC. Don't have any ATC, so we're going to go with 5,000 for now, and we'll assign ourselves higher later on. And let's just read the notes first. Radar required DDI or GPS RNAV 1. Since I'm unfamiliar with the airport, I'm going to kind of just have a quick look through them. For non-GPS aircraft, that's not us. For non-GPS aircraft, okay, so the rest of the notes don't apply to us. And it looks pretty straightforward here. And let's just have a little look-see here. We can even go into plan mode, and that'll help us see exactly what we're doing here. So, 16 left, climb heading 164 to at or above 932 feet. Then direct KVOB, then on track 166 to cross Renby at or above 3,000. Then on depicted route to Harrop, cross Harrop at or above 10,000. So I think the restriction is written on the plate. There it is. So let's just have a look here. Renby, then we take a right turn direct to Richer. After Richer, we go to Emerald, then Harrop above 10,000. Harrop is above 10,000, then it's direct to E-Rave. And that's it. That's the end of our SID there, and then we do Q1 from there. All right, perfect. So it's all in there. Terrain is obviously an issue around Seattle, mostly to the east of the field. So as long as we turn west as soon as we depart, our MSA is 2,200. If we go east at 6,400. So to help mitigate that, we are going to have terrain up the whole time. Certainly for the departure process until we reach 10, 15,000 feet, then we can switch to radar if we need to. Radar would be nice to have. Maybe I'll get it on the second, what am I trying to say here? The second MFD here. But definitely going to have to focus on terrain, because terrain is, hitting a rock is even worse than hitting a rainstorm, so even less forgiving. That's basically it for our departure. NOTAMs. Have a quick look here for NOTAM. Just make sure nothing too out of the ordinary here. And the weather's not terrible here. It's gray, but it's not terrible, so we don't need a departure alternate. Radio altimeter is unreliable due to 5G networks. Summa 2, that's not us. Approach procedures. All right, really not that much stuff in the NOTAM, so that's good. Perfect. Love it. So I'd say we're just about ready to go here. That works. Any questions?
Checked. No questions.
All right, and I think they're just about done here. Boarding completed. Love it. Prepare for pushback and departure. Start the APU, please. Start the APU. Start the APU, please. Or not.
Hello, Captain. We're ready for pushback.
I'll just do it myself. We're not quite ready yet. We're going to get this ground power off in a second here. And we got one door still open. Because we're still at 6 minutes to departure according to this, which means we have to probably fast forward it. You can always fast forward it. I love that you can fast forward it.
Departure check completed. Bypass pin inserted.
Yeah, we're not ready yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board today. As you locate your assigned
Trying to
seats,
catch up with
please
you
place your
with the
smaller
series on
items in
YouTube.
the seat
Wow.
in front of you to
Well,
provide
thank you
more
for
room
watching
to
all the way
provide
from
your items
the
and
start, because I have done this for a long time. Like, I added up the number of hours that I've put out on YouTube, and it's madness. It really is when I start to think about the couple of years that I've been streaming and how much time I've put into YouTube now. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. It's funny because I'm playing catch up too. I have a great podcast I listen to called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. If you've ever heard it, it's just hilarious. It's just Conan O'Brien doing his thing, being a goof, interviewing famous people, various famous people, celebrities, comedians, all sorts of people, but very long form interviews, not the fluffy late show 5-7 minute interviews. You're talking a 30 to 40 minute interview with people, so he really gets to either get to know them well or just goof around with them for 40 minutes. Either way, it always ends up being hilarious. But I am stuck back in 2020. You know, he's been making it since about 2018. I'm halfway through, and I'm trying to get caught up, but I just don't listen often enough. All right. Anyways, APU should be online. It is. So we can do that. We can go ahead and request that you take away the GPU, and I'm just going to request to take away the chocks, and that immediately takes away all ground
Release
services.
parking brakes.
And then we're just about ready to go here. All right, doing good, doing good. And NV Silence, if you want to come and fly with us ever too. I try to put these up on the Discord, the schedule. If you got a chance, hop on. We're going to Seattle, San Francisco. We're doing it now live, so come on down. Always fun to do it with other people. All right, so we just need to fast forward this guy.
Hey guys, all packs are on board. Are we clear to close?
Yes.
Release parking brakes.
Yes.
Thanks. Let me know if you need anything.
And now the stupid thing is the bridge came back on, so like, honest to God. These systems all try to trigger the bridge, and it goes back and forth 7 times a day. And now I can't undo it for some reason. I had this happen the other day when I was
welcome 1414 heavy, on final 4,
737.
runway 16.
Release parking brakes.
Try it one other way here. Nope, I think it is moving. Oh, it is moving. Okay, perfect. It's been a bit of a bear. I'll try and get this to work. Okay, so we're just gonna get rid of that because we're not really using that. All right.
Checked.
Before start checklist. Before start checklist.
B4 start checklist. Flight deck door closed and locked. MCP.
Speed 150, heading 164, altitude 5,000. Altitude 5,000.
Takeoff speeds.
V1 134, VR 143, V2 150.
CDU pre-flight.
Completed.
Rudder and aileron trim.
Release parking brakes.
Free and 0.
Taxi and takeoff briefing.
Completed.
Anti-collision light on. B4 start checklist complete.
Alright, so we are cleared. I'm just getting
Checked.
this behind us. Alright, brakes are off, ready for pushback, telling engine start till advised.
Push. All engines clear. Start at will.
Still no ATC online, unfortunately. What can you do? Sometimes it's just the way it is. Let me know how the balance is, guys, too. I think I've got a pretty good balance between the engine noise, background noise, and my voice, but if it's too loud or quiet, just say so. It's very hard for me to judge. I can see visually, but I don't have feedback of my own voice compared to everything else in my monitoring headset, so it is a little bit challenging sometimes. I hope I went the right way. I'm pretty sure it went tail to the right. I don't know where he's going to go. I wonder if he's going to take us right back down onto Bravo, or onto Whiskey, actually. I think that's what he's going to do. Start sequence is 2, then 1.
Check.
Start engine 2.
Starting engine 2.
Yeah, that's what he's going to do. He's going to push us all the way into Whiskey. I don't think he recognizes the apron lane. Should have manually done it, but that's okay. There's not
Oil
too much
pressure.
I don't care. Alright, oil pressure good. We're looking for 25% N2 on a 737, 25%. Even though the FS2 crew's doing the starting, it's kind of a shared effort. I'm the one that has to put up the fuel. There's the fuel. You see the lights get bright to say the valves are
And
moving.
detect traffic, 1414 heavy, landing runway 16 center, seat type.
And then we should see fuel flow indicated, and we do see EGT light off. So I do always like the 737, the PMDG products. Like the start process is very realistic in terms of how all the parameters relate to each other. Some other airliners in this sim, the CRJ did not seem to have a terribly realistic start profile. Not sure where this guy's taking us. I'm going to stop in a second here. So he's going to let me know when the start valve closes.
Starter cutout.
There you go. And I have to wait till he calls engine stable. Or stable, idle, whatever he says.
Number 2 is stable.
Start engine 1.
Starting engine 1.
And here comes the arrival. Here comes the departure. Oh, he's just cutting right in front of me. Okay, no, whatever. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know where we're going. I'm going to stop him now, I think. As soon as this guy's past me, so I'm going to stop here, complete pushback. I don't know where he's pushing us to. Alright, in the meantime, there's the 25%. Fuel flows up. Just give me a second. Fuel flow.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
56%. The switch clicks over.
Starter
the valve
cutout.
closes.
And detect traffic, 1414 heavy, vacated runway 16 center.
Number
and
1 stable.
crossing runway 16 left. Seat type.
Flaps 5.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board our flight today. This is the lead flight attendant.
Flight control check.
Please direct your
Ready.
attention to the cabin crew for port safety
Full left.
information. There is an
Unlocking
instruction
gear.
card
Full
in
right.
the pocket that illustrates the
Center.
safety equipment on this aircraft.
Full up.
Regulations
Full down.
require compliance
Center.
with this information as well as all crew instructions.
Full left.
Lighted information
Full
signs
right.
and posted placards.
Center.
Fasten your seatbelt by
Flight control check
inserting the
complete.
metal tip into the buckle. Tighten by
Tow truck
pulling on the
disconnect.
belt.
Bypass
To release
maneuver.
your seatbelt, lift the metal flap on the buckle. It is
Left
our
is clear.
policy that you keep
Right
your
is clear.
seatbelt fastened at all times while
Before
seated.
taxi checklist.
Doors are clearly marked with exit signs. and
Before taxi
instructions for door
checklist.
operation.
Generators on. Propane on. Anti-ice off. Isolation valve auto. Engine star switches auto. Recall.
Seattle traffic, Alaska 99, 3 mile final
In an
runway.
emergency,
Check.
lights will illuminate
Checked.
the
Water
aisle.
brake.
Cabin
RTO.
is pressurized. If there is
Engine
loss of
start
cabin
levers.
pressure, a panel will open
Idle
and
detent.
oxygen mask will appear. Remain seated with your
Idle
seatbelt
detent.
fastened until a mask
Flight
forces
controls.
start to flow of oxygen.
Checked.
Oxygen
Ground
will be
equipment.
flowing to the mask even though the bag may
Clear.
not inflate. Cover your nose and mouth with
Clear.
the mask. Place the elastic
Clear.
band around
Before
your head
taxi
and
checklist
tighten by
complete.
pulling on the
Alright, so I did a bit of a no-no there, and I kind of realized it as we were going, so I just went with it. But really, we should not have started that after-start checklist until the tug was clear and the guy was walking away. Just because we have to the flight controls, the flaps, everything. We need to make sure these guys are clear. So that was an error on my part. Unfamiliarity with the SOPs is what I'm going to blame it on. I'm gonna go with it. But next time now, since I'm going to be flying this airplane repeatedly in this season, I'm going to be much more cognizant of that. Do not command the flaps, because as soon as you command the flaps, he starts this whole before taxi flow. I'm not going to command the flaps until I see the tug pulling away. So, anyways, trying to learn lessons here as we go. Clear left.
Clear right.
Alaska traffic, Alaska. Seattle traffic, Alaska 146 is at the apron. We'll be taxiing, taxiing for departure, runway 16 left. Just let this guy go by. I can't believe I actually have a Walker 747 in the sim. That's hilarious. Alright, parking brake I was already off. Alright, we're gonna give way to him, nobody else coming up behind him, away we go. And I've already forgot what this taxiway was called, that's why I was gonna say it and I'm like, I don't know what it was. So let's just pull this up real quickly here. Come on. How much power do we get going here? Why are we not going? Here we go. There's Bravo's the taxiway. Whiskey is this inner one. I don't want to taxi on Whiskey, I want to taxi on Bravo. Busy airport though, just to hear everyone talking on Unicom, and I hope it's coming through the speakers. I'm pretty sure I set that up correctly. That V-Pilot should be coming through the stream audio here. Taxi light on. He already got it. He's smart. He knows. Alright, away we go. Season 9 in the 737. Taxiing Bravo for kind of a, it's not a low-vis departure, but it's kind of a dreary day. Not the best day in the world, but that's okay. Away we go for season 9. I can't believe I've been doing this for 9 seasons. Like, it blows my mind to think of how long I've been doing these for. And how much time, like I've spent a good amount of time in this sim. Probably need to wipe this a little bit here.
Flight deck. Okay, thanks. Captain, the cabin is secure.
Thank you. But the funny thing too is just to think that, like, when I started this pilot's life career, pilot's life was a different piece of software. You know, it was no longer chapter 2, it was chapter 1. Just making sure it does say we're taxi out, so it is tracking us. But yeah, this was in season. This was chapter 1, not chapter 2, and I started out flying it with P3D. You know, with Prepared, with the Majestic Dash. I'm pretty sure it was the first aircraft that I was flying in pilot's life career. I think I flew a couple of seasons for Encore there before I moved on to. I think I moved on to WestJet, flying the PMDG 737 back then again. And then I flew Transat, and that was crazy because some of those flights were long in Transat. Oh my gosh. I think I only did 2 turns overseas, over to Europe on the 330 for Transat, and my god, those were long streams. I look back now and I'm just like, I don't think I would ever do that again. I really don't. It was an interesting challenge, logistically speaking, to try and get an 8-hour stream into your life, and I don't think I would do it again. I don't think I would. I think I would rather start flying for an operator in Europe at some point and maybe fly around Europe a little bit just for fun. But I just don't think I can realistically give myself an 8-hour live stream ever again. I mean, I took lots of breaks. I'll be honest, I took lots of breaks. So yeah, you NP Silence, you've been watching them. You've probably seen them now. If you're up to season 7, yeah, you must have seen my Air Transat ones. And I talked for the first 2-3 hours of the stream, and then if no ATC was online, I'd walk away. You know, the autopilot's on. I'll take a rest period in the back of the airplane and just walk away from the stream for an hour or 2. And I mean, who could talk for 8 hours straight? Like, you know, I kill my voice talking for 2 to 3 hours, let alone an 8-hour stream. So definitely not a possibility, realistically speaking. And it was interesting to get it done. I just don't see myself wanting to do it. And again, like the idea of flying like the ETOPS and transatlantic over to Europe, it's fun. There's a certain aspect of fun to it, but there's also just a certain element of tedium. I don't see myself doing that anymore. So even if the 747 does come out in the sim, I will probably still end up flying it short to medium haul, but I won't probably be doing it long haul. Anyways. Before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff checklist. Flaps.
Flaps 5, green light.
Stabilizer trim.
.9 set. 4.9 units.
Before takeoff checklist is complete.
Nice. Alright, there goes the walker dock in there. Nice. Nicely done, sir. Here, I really wish there was a realistic interaction. I feel like one day there will be. I mean, you know, you're talking like quite intense levels of detail. The fact you got the rain showing up on the windscreen is nice. It is just a pity we don't have the wipers can actually clear it off. And
Clear eye.
Yeah, clear left, whatever.
Clear eye.
Seattle traffic, Alaska 146, taking position, runway 16 left for departure. Runway entry procedure.
Okay. Cabin crew, take your seats. Clear on the approach.
Thank you. Got lights, most of the lights.
Ready to go.
And this is not bad. This is the default scenery too. Like, it's not terrible. It could be better. This is one of the few default airports. Some of the default airports in Microsoft Flight Simulator were actually like the bespoke, the higher detail airports. They're not bad. They're better than like a totally default auto-generated airport. Alright, here we go. Takeoff. N1 Toga.
Thrust set. $80 knots.
Check.
V1. Rotate. Oh, there's a brake.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Wipers off.
400 feet.
Roger. LNAV. VNAV speed. Autopilot on.
Checked.
Flaps 1.
Speed check.
Flaps up.
Speed check. Flaps upset.
And the funny thing is that I don't remember what our cruise altitude was, but we'll change that in a second. And I was told to put the engine anti-ice on too. That's one thing I forgot. Pretty big. Low pressures, like already here. Tank, because the tank is empty already. Probably should not have taken off with that tank. Seattle traffic, Alaska 146, airborne off runway 16 left, and I'll right turn out. I thought about that too. I had even sort of said it to myself, we're going to need engine anti-ice on, and then I forgot. So we're actually at TAP plus 11, so we're not too bad, but any second now the temperature's going to drop as we go up. But we are staying away from the terrain, that's for sure. Turn. After takeoff checklist.
After takeoff checklist, engine bleeds, on, packs, auto, landing gear, up and off, flaps, up, no lights. After takeoff checklist complete. Happy to release the cabin crew?
No thanks. No thanks. No. No thanks. No thanks. Alright, don't listen. I don't care. I don't care. Alright, it's kind of getting a little nicer out here. Not seeing much of the mountains out of Seattle today, but maybe tomorrow, maybe the next flight we'll see a little bit more. So packs are auto, the AP bleeds off. Yeah, he's got it all. Good stuff. Oh, there we go. Not even 10,000. We're already starting to break up the clouds here. That's at +3, so we'll leave this engine anti-ice on because it looks like there's kind of another layer going on up here. I don't know if it's going to be bumpy. It's kind of one of those days where you're like, do we let the passengers go? Do we not? Maybe, maybe not.
10,000.
There's 10,000. Lights off. Pressurization check. Past about 2,000 cabin altitude. Difference is about 4. We're climbing.
Happy to release the cabin?
Go for it.
Okay.
Portable electronic devices may now be used, with the exception of TVs, radios, two-way transmitters, or any other device in a transmit mode, as these devices may interfere with the aircraft's communication and navigation systems.
Quick scroll around. You know, never really set a good transponder code. 1234 is not a good code. 2 in front of it there. It doesn't look like a VFR code anymore. Still no ATC, huh? Lots of people up in Vancouver today. Vancouver seems to be hopping all the place. Not much happening down in Seattle, unfortunately. Cleared most of the terrain right now through 11,000 feet. I think there is one mountain goes up to 14 or 15,000. So, and the one place I could look for my cruise altitude, my FO set it for me 35,000. So go ahead and set that now. I honestly couldn't remember at the time. Just setting it after takeoff what the altitude was. So just went with a high altitude to keep the climb going, and then we caught up afterwards. So there we go, 350. We're on our way to San Francisco. Hopefully it's a little warmer, a little sunnier than it was here in dreary Seattle. And we're showing an arrival time in San Francisco, 2049. Not too bad, not too bad. We got that launched pretty quickly there, I'd say. We were off the gate in about 30 to 40 minutes, which is a very reasonable amount of time for 737, especially considering I spieled on a whole bunch at the start, just talking about sort of the launch of Season 9. So I kind of spieled on quite a bit at the beginning. Sort of moved on from that a little bit now, if you will. Got the airplane going, I think, in a pretty reasonable amount of time, especially considering it's like a new airplane. It's not, I've flown the 737 for many hours now in P3D, quite a lot of hours, not nearly as many hours, but a fair number of hours in the MSFS world. But it still is a new-ish airplane to me. I'm not as familiar with it as I was back in the P3D days when I was flying it a lot. So the first day kind of getting out with it again, doing it in front of the camera, as it were. And I made a few errors. I will be the first to admit that I made some errors, some mistakes in judgment. Perhaps with just certainly when I started the after takeoff checklist, I was kind of eager to get it going. I see the FS2 crew here in the corner prompting me, and I'm like, oh yeah, we got to do that next. But like at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to take a step back and just take a breath and wait. It's not a race to get to the destination. The number one important priority of all aviation is safety. So don't be doing stuff with the airplane, with the flight controls, and the flaps while there's still guys working around the airplane, working around the nose gear. Technically, when you're doing the control check, you should be pressing the nose wheel steering disconnect and make sure that that it's just the rudder moving and not the nose wheel turn, not the nose wheel steering across the pavement, cranking the tires back and forth on dry pavement. But again, that could fail. Anything could fail in an airplane. So imagine if you're sitting there doing the control check and the guy's trying to disconnect the tow bar and suddenly the nose wheel starts going back and forth because of the disconnect, or because you're a human being and you forgot. It's possible. It's very possible to forget. So don't even think about doing it until you get the guys a safe distance away. Don't think about maneuvering any of the flight controls, anything on the exterior of the aircraft until these guys are a safe distance away. Just plain and simple logic, respect, safety, number one. Never mind the efficiency, how long it takes to get, wait till they're a safe distance away. So there's transition set standard. And I see the question there, so I'm going to answer it now. Standard set and cross-check. Do I prefer the 737 over the A320? And that, my friend, is a very, very, very loaded question at this point in time. I think I will say yes. And there's a very simple reason for it. I have a type rating on a 320 now, so I've learned to really like this airplane, and I've learned to like a lot of the things about the 320. So that at this point in my life is a very loaded question. Do I like the 320 737? Yes, I like the 320. I fly the 320 now, so I like the 320. As far as in the sim, do I like the 320 or the 737 better? Again, it's a toss-up. There's things that I like about each airplane. In the sim, I can't say for certain that I prefer one over the other. There are certain things that are I like about each one. The PMDG products seem to have better performance in Microsoft Flight Simulator because there's not an external program running. It's all running inside Microsoft Flight Simulator, so Microsoft Flight Simulator is able to prioritize the code, the processing, the performance of the aircraft, whereas the Fenix 320, it runs an external program to render all the displays. And that's not a terrible technique by any means, but the trouble is that Microsoft Flight Simulator does not necessarily recognize that that program is running separately outside of the sim. So one thing that that Flight Simulator is very good at doing now is gleaning the most performance it can out of your system. So it really kind of looks at how, what percentage of the processor and the GPU are being used, and it really tries to balance them, take as much as it thinks it reasonably can, kind of keep them around 70 to 80% most of the time, so you get the best show you can get without overloading your system. And it seems like they've done, in the beginning it really was kind of hit or miss, but it seems like over the last 2-3 years since they launched, since Microsoft Flight Simulator launched, it's gotten a lot better at really kind of tuning to your system. My system is not a great system. It's not a high-end system, but it does a pretty good job of kind of tuning the sim now to really kind of maintain the best possible performance. The trouble is that when you run an external program that actually needs a fair amount of CPU power to run, which the Fenix external software does, Microsoft's Flight Simulator doesn't recognize that, and so it doesn't include that kind of, and it's like, hey, I can use 70 to 80%, so all of a sudden, Flight Simulator is using 70 or 80%, you throw another 10 to 15% on for the just for the Fenix screens, the external process, and all of a sudden you're pretty much maxing out your CPU on a regular basis. So it runs most of the time pretty well, the Fenix does, but it definitely, there are times where it pushes the performance of my sim and degrades the performance of my sim because that external process is not being well coordinated. And it's not just the Fenix, it's also other things I've got running externally like Sim Toolkit Pro, like vPilot, that also all want, a small amount of processor power, 3, 5%, 8%. But then you start to add all those with the Fenix external program using 10 to 15%, all of a sudden there's not enough processor power to go around for what everybody wants. I like the Fenix a lot in a lot of ways. It's a little bit tougher on the performance. Yeah, and I think you'll have fun with both. I don't think you'll regret buying the 737 or the Fenix. The Fenix is a great airplane. It's a little bit rougher on the computers. If you've got a higher-end computer, you're probably not going to notice too many issues with it. My computer's not too bad, but my GPU's getting pretty old. I've got a GTX 1060 in there, so it's starting to show its age. It's kind of the lower end of what this sim was really designed for. And that's fine, I accept that. I'm hoping that this year I'm going to get to upgrade that, but no guarantees. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm hoping that that's going to come, but I think you'll be happy with both. The Fenix has some neat stuff that it does and the PMDG doesn't. Probably the nicest thing that the Fenix does is that you can just trigger a random failure randomly. So with the PMDG, there is the service-based failures, which are, X percentage of this system or this unit is going to fail X% of the time. And so you know, it will generate failures based on kind of those failure models, those percentages. But you can fly hundreds of hours in this airplane and not see anything fail. The Fenix does the same thing. However, they've added a nice little fun little trick to it, and that is that the Fenix has a random failure button. So you just press the random failure button and it will randomly fail something in its list of possible failures. And it's just like the PMDG, it's got hundreds of things that it can possibly fail. Different systems, different valves, different sensors, different things that it can fail. It will just pick one of them at random and just fail them. And you won't even know. Sometimes you will not even see anything. You'll hit that button and then you'll just keep on going. And you're like, did something actually fail? And you won't find out until you go to start the APU at the end of the flight that, oh, the APU igniters aren't working, or the APU oil pressure is low or something. Or the oil quantity is low or whatever. You won't find that until you get to the end of the flight. But I just like the randomness of it. So, because the trouble with the PMDG system is if you want to trigger a failure, you can trigger any failure you want, but you know what's coming. And I love that kind of like, that random failure button in the Fenix is such a nice little feature. I want something to fail. I want to practice dealing with a failure. I don't want to pick the failure. I don't want to know what the failure is in advance. I just want to run with it. So, yeah, that is something that I think Fenix has done quite well. They're both great airplanes. They both fly really well. I've not had any problems with, knock on wood, anything crashing in the sim lately. You know, the biggest complaint about the Fenix comes down to performance. I don't think I'm going to be able to live stream it anytime soon until I replace my GPU, just because it kind of really pushes the sim, my computer, right to its limit. And then if you were to throw streaming software on top of that, I don't know how it would handle it, but I don't think it's going to go well. I think it's going to be, and it's not that it go badly most of the time, but when you're just coming in for a landing and then all of a sudden everything starts adding up and all of a sudden your frame rate starts to drop into the single digits just as you're on approach, and then I can see that happening, and it's a pity because I like the Fenix and I would love to fly it on stream, but I don't think I'm going to get that opportunity anytime soon. But I think you'll be happy with both the PMDG and the Fenix. They're both great airplanes. They've got decently long legs. You can do a decent long leg. You can do a short leg with them. You can do all sorts of things with them. They're very versatile airplanes. You can land at some pretty reasonably small airports with both these airplanes. So I think they're both very reasonable airplanes. They're very good simulations. Lots of depth. You feel like you're actually flying an airplane sometimes in terms of the amount of system depth. And if you do something wrong, the airplane will respond incorrectly. If you do the systems in the wrong order, if you forget to wait for the APU to come online before you try and shut down the engines, everything goes away. Or you forget to switch the APU generator online before you take away the ground power, everything goes dark. So I love that realistic simulation, and I'm happy to say the PMDG has met that level. The only thing I'm really waiting for is I'm waiting for that EFB too, and I think all of us are. We are all excited to one day see that EFB come into this airplane, because the CPU, it's a great way to potentially control the airplane, but it can be a bit clunky sometimes. And you know, given the way like the technology's come, I mean, you can put the charts on there for sure if you wanted to. I don't mind having this drop-down chart. Like, to me, like, it's sort of the trouble with doing it on the EFBs and most of these aircraft is that the screen, as a percentage of your eye's perspective, is so small. Like when I'm sitting back here looking at my sim in front of me and I see the screens, you know, from my perspective, there, that is the PFD. Well, if I hold my fingers there, that's the height of the PFD from my perspective. In the real world, the height of the PFD would be like that. Ditto for the EFB. If I was to have an EFB, it'd be about that big right there, instead of being that much of my eye line. So sometimes flying the sim, flying on, I don't have a huge monitor. It's a 29 inch. I can't even remember anymore. So I've had it for quite a few years now. I think it's a 29 inch. I can't even remember honestly, but it's not huge. So sometimes I am having to lean in to really kind of see the details on these screens, which you wouldn't have to in real life, because this would be a bigger perspective in front of your face. Like if I was to actually sit about here, not that that's zoomed in, but that's how big the display should be in terms of the angle of my field of vision. Aerospace engineering student. Ooh. Please make nice airplanes. Well, welcome aboard. Nope. Did I just hit something? Alright, okay. I was just literally just moving my wires around there, so I may have tapped something there. Yeah, you're fortunate if Microsoft Flight Simulator is your first simulator, because this really is worlds above where we were in previous generations. And the airplanes themselves in the previous generations were generally pretty realistic, but to get realistic outdoor scenery that really gave you the depth and scale of what was going on outside, it took a lot of effort, and even then it did not achieve the level. With the kind of processing that you can put behind, satellite data and process satellite data into a realistic map of the world, a realistic immersive world you can fly through. Just worlds above where the scenery was before. The scenery was not terrible before. You did start to notice repetitions in it, when it was being sort of generated by the simulator. It's this type of scenery, so you did start to see repetitions in the forest. You did start to see repetitions in the wave patterns on the oceans. And you will see that here as well. You'll see problems with it. You'll see places where the AI data is bad for one reason or another. There's an error in the data, so there's a giant mountain peak where there shouldn't be, just because there's one little spike of data that's incorrect. Or the buildings and the bridges, when you kind of get close to them. From far away, they look really good. As you get a little closer in, okay, the detail's not quite there. Yeah, I'd say it's more than reached a reasonable compromise at this point. But this is a great way for you to kind of really experience some of these airplanes. And the PMDG and the Fenix are two of the best. If you are an aerospace engineer and you want to kind of really operate the airplanes realistically and be able to fail stuff and see what happens, how people deal with failures, then definitely you're living in a great era, and these are the airplanes to probably do it with. There are lots of airplanes out there that are not nearly as robust in the failure department. You can't fail things, or if they fail, they don't fail realistically. In the previous generation, Majestic was another one that had a very realistic failure model simulation of the Dash 8, of the Q400. They had a fantastic it wasn't complete of all the systems, but the system that it did have, it had the hydraulics, it had the electrical, had a few different systems. If you failed those systems, they failed in a realistic manner. The outcome was realistic, and you had to deal with it. You had to deal with maybe the flaps did not come down properly, the gear, you had to do manual extension. You had to deal with it and think about it. So I had a few streams where I did that, and you probably saw those, and the Majestic was great for that. And that's kind of what I've been going for. Like, for me personally, like, my goal with these streams is to keep them realistic, is to try and make them as realistic airline flying as possible. That being said, I do some commentary through them, and I chat at a few places that maybe I wouldn't, to try and keep it a little bit streamy and engagey, but engaged.
1011.
Roger. Transition, set 2992. Transition set standard.
Standard set.
There we go, and we're 34 for 35. And that chime there to me is so key. The 320 does not have that, and it's so weird. You get to 800 feet, and this thing starts flashing, but there's never a chime to kind of prompt you to start paying attention. Double-edged sword. You should be paying attention anyways, but sometimes it's good to have, especially if there's a distraction going on, there's a failure, someone walked in the flight deck to bring you a meal or a coffee or whatever. Having an audio cue is not a bad thing. So there's things I like about the Airbus, there's things I don't like about the Airbus. In general, I think it's a very well put together airplane. There's a few things that feel a little awkward about it. There's a few things that I just straight up, I'm not sure I like. And again, it's things like not having a chime when you're 1,000 feet to 1,000 feet to go. Not having a chime is just sort of a prompt at that point. It's a bit of an odd outlier to me. FMC speed, VNAV path. It's the first airplane I've flown in a while that did not have a chime. First airplane I've probably flown in 15 years that did not have a chime approaching your level of. It's not that you shouldn't be paying attention, but what if you are distracted for one reason or another? What if the other guy went out to go use the bathroom, so you're in here single pilot for a minute, and the ATC calls you and you don't even notice the fact you're 1,000 feet to go. Now, in theory, the system should level off automatically, but it helps to bring people back into it. I keep my, interesting story says, I keep my terrain detailed at 60 to manage FPS. Still looks very good. I don't even know what I have mine set to. I don't want to go in the menus now and pause the flight right now, but I've managed to find, I think, my own personal balance. And that's the nice thing, is there are tons of detail options. There's tons of graphics options in MSFS too, so you can totally tune the sim to your computer and to maintain the FPS you want. I'm happy with 30. If I can maintain a solid 30 most of the time, even in ground operations near busy airports, I'm happy with that. 60 is great, don't get me wrong, and I like 60 when I can do it. I'm a bit of a pragmatist. I like a lot of detail as well. I like a lot of airplanes if I can see them, preferably, so I'm happy to accept 30 and accept that detail level. I compare it to real life so much of the time, so I need to know, like, is it going to be realistic? Okay, we can probably turn off the engine NTAs because we're definitely above the clouds here. It's kind of hazy, but otherwise it's good. We've got 2050 is our show and arrival time. Right now we're at 1933, so we've got an hour and 20 minutes to go to San Francisco. So the one topic I kind of want to talk a little bit about today, because I think it's, well, it's a very hot topic right now anyways. And it brings up some interesting questions, and I'm going to make some points anyways, and then people have made plenty of points on it, but I'm just going to talk about it anyways, and that is the Flight Sim Studios E175. So in 2 days, the Flight Sim Studios Embraer 175 is going to release in an early access mode. And it's going to be 30 euros, I think. I can't remember exactly what the pricing is, but it's going to be around 30 euros, I think, for early access. And as the product evolves and approaches a finished product, they're going to raise the price higher. So, the first thing I'll say is that I love the Embraer because, of course, that's another aircraft that I have many thousands of hours flying. I probably have about somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 hours flying the Embraer. So, I like that airplane a lot, and I think it is a great airplane for flight sim, because it's a regional airplane, but it's a narrow body style regional jet. And what do I mean by that? Well, it is a regional jet. It is a relatively small jet. 76 people kind of is the standard capacity of it, give or take 70 to 80 seats for the E175. So it is a regional jet. It's not a big jet. Which means you can get into lots of places, but like it's tall. It's not like the CRJ that sits just barely 3 feet off the ground. It's as tall almost as an Airbus. It's as tall as a 737 for sure in terms of where the pilots are sitting. And in every way it runs more like an airliner, a narrow body airliner. There's no integral air stairs or anything like that. Like, it runs a lot more like an integral, like a full airliner than than your typical regional jet. So anyways, I think first of all, I just want to say, like, I'm happy to see someone trying to bring this a reasonable quality facsimile of this airplane into the sim, because I think it's just like the 737 and the 320. It really is right up the simmer's niche. You can fly just like a 1 or 2 hour flight to lots of smaller airports, even more airports you can get into than you would be able to get into with the 320 and the 737. You can get into with the 175. So I think it's just perfect for simmers. That being said, and I have heard the issues. I've read a lot about this. I'll be honest. I'm on the alpha test team. I got in towards the end of the alpha test, but I was on the alpha test team as well, and I was helping sort of fix some bugs and trying to take it a little bit for granted that certain things are not going to work. And I don't know how much I could really say about it, but there was some question about, is it really even ready for an early access, and it came down to basically it's an economic decision. And this is the trouble, especially with flight simulation studios, and in general, like all flight sim developers, is that generally they're very small studios, a couple of people, and usually not very much financial backing. So it's as much kind of a labor of love as anything else, trying to put these things together. Trying to have the job you want to have and develop the software you want to develop instead of doing a job you hate. So, but a lot of these studios are very small studios. Very, very hard to get into this business sometimes, and I think an airplane like the Embraer may be a little bit of a big project for a small startup studio, just because it is a fairly complicated electronic airline, fly-by-wire, like a full-featured FMS, and Load 27 is a fantastically featured FMS with full VNAV, cost indexing, everything. So it's a lot to take on. I want to say that I believe these guys really have every intention. They're not out to sort of make a quick buck and then run away with a half-finished product. I am a little concerned with some of the stuff that I've read, and there may be a valid point, because it has happened in the past where developers have just gotten out there and just done a half-finished product, and then as soon as they sort of have their first little cash injection. They sort of drop the project and move on to something else. And I certainly hope that's not the case. Certainly from everything all the discussions we've had to date, everything that I've seen so far, they definitely seem like they're in it for the long haul. Do I think they may have bitten off more than they can chew? I think it's possible. I think it's very possible that they may have underestimated how much work it's going to take to get the systems, the FMS, up and running properly. That being said, I mean, they are selling it as an early access product, so you know you're getting an incomplete product if you do decide to buy into it, if you really feel like you need the Embraer. And I even had this debate myself. Before I applied to be a member of the early access team, I had the debate myself. Am I willing to put up with an early access aircraft myself? One that potentially has bugs, systems that don't work, things that don't work the way they're supposed to. Do I think that, like, as a simmer, I can tolerate that, I can deal with it, because it's not going to be great. I like a finished product. Don't get me wrong. I love a finished product. I think that in general PMDG has done a very good job, and their product is at a great stage right now. We'd love to see the EFB, but it's a very operable stage right now. Almost everything pretty much works the way it should. Are there improvements? Can there be tweaks to the code? Probably. Yeah, there probably can. Are there bugs in there? Probably there still are. But overall, it's a very finished product. I can fly this no problem. The Embraer is not there, and I had that debate with myself. Do I want to be a part of this team? I wanted to contribute, but there was part of me that said, are you willing to put up with the bugs, the mistakes, the errors, the problems? Will that frustrate you, or will you be able to sort of overlook that and say, hey, I'm going to submit the bug report, and we're going to make the bug go away, and we're going to squash it, and we're going to get better, we're going to get the product better. So I had that debate myself, and I went into this eyes open saying, I know, at the time I joined, it was an alpha build, it's not going to be great. It wasn't too bad. I haven't read everything that's been written about it, but some people have complained that they feel like the website is selling more than it's going to do right now, and that might be the case. I think the developers have been pretty clear that it is an early access product. There's lots of stuff that does not yet work. You don't have to buy it. That's the nice thing about the capitalist system. You don't want this product, you don't think it's a high enough quality product for your needs, you don't buy it. You vote with your dollar, and everyone has that freedom. There is no real competitor in terms of there being another Embraer out there on the market, but there are plenty of other decent airplanes to fly, and I mean, you can definitely take the 737 or the 320 into most of those places. So if you're really looking for finished product, there are finished products out there that you can use. They are just basically, they are looking for cash infusion to keep the studio going until they throughout the development process. And it's a tough thing for developers. There's a lot of initial research, coding, bug fixing. So much development goes into the front end, and you don't see a payday for sometimes years. Look at PMDG. PMDG had their longest release cycle ever with this 737. They had never had as long between releases as they did between the time they released the NGX or the NGXU or whatever it was, which was called the NGXU, and the Microsoft Flight Simulator version of the 737. It was 3 years, I think, three years, that product release cycle, which was unprecedented, and that's a long time. Like, PMDG has a fair number of staff members. They've got to support that staff. And they said it was tough. There was a point where they're beginning to question it a little bit, because it was the longest release cycle. They had no revenue basically coming in. Once the P3D platform died, their revenue stream almost evaporated until the DC-6 came out, and then they got some revenue from that. But you know what I mean? Like, it was a very long time that this airplane was in development, and they saw no benefit of all that money invested in the development until long down the road. PMDG did have the advantage that they were able to sell the NGXU and sell it as here's a down payment. $100 you buy the NGXU, we're going to give you $100 off the next 737 when it comes out. So they were able to really kind of stimulate the market a little bit at the front end and build up a cash reserve. But yeah, yeah, and I've just lost my train. Yeah, and so, but they had that ability to generate a cash reserve up front with a product that they did have to sort of see them through this very long development period. A lot of other studios do not have that luxury. So, and that is an interesting story. It's a very good point. Why not something less complex? And Flight Sim Studios actually has done a less complex airplane. I believe they did a Sea Ray, which is a much less complex airplane. And you're right. I think there probably should have been perhaps a stepping stone in there. trying to look upon it as an outsider. There is probably some validity to that point. That yeah, because ask PMDG and ask Fenix the challenges involved in coding this level of an FMC, and the Embraer has the same level FMC as a Boeing or an Airbus. Really, at the end of the day, with low 27, it is a fully functional, cost-indexed, full efficiency flight management system. You can do everything in the box. You can run it in managed mode pretty much through the entire flight, and the box will get you to the right place at the right speeds at the right time. So it is in that sense, it's a very high-level, high-tech airplane. It's a fly-by-wire airplane as well. So there is a lot of high-end technology to it. I think I want to say that they will do it. Maybe it's just myself being a bit naive and being a bit hopeful, because I want to see the Embraer come to the sim. I think it's a fantastic airplane to fly in the sim, and I'm going to miss it now that I no longer fly it. So I would love to have a good sim version. So I'm going to definitely put some of my own personal time and effort into making sure this turns into a very good version. I 100% understand people's skepticism. People have been burned in the flight sim community before by early access airplanes that never leave early access, and 4 years later are still in early access. So I get that. But again, at the end of the day, you don't have to spend that money if you don't think it's worth it. Play the wait and see game. I agree. The airplane is nowhere near a finished product yet. That being said, I have submitted dozens upon dozens of bugs that I've found as I've flown it, and most of them have been responded to very quickly. A few of them have been put into the we know this doesn't work right yet, and it's on the it's in the long-term plan. It may not happen quickly, but a lot of stuff is getting squashed as quickly as you can do it. There seems to be a real kind of push right now. The electrical system is one of the more obvious systems in the aircraft, and there's a real big push right now to get that system working correctly. And even just in the last few weeks, that there's been quite a lot of tweaks and improvements in the airplane. So there's definitely a development pipeline. Stuff is definitely being worked on as bugs and things are being identified. They're being squashed fairly quickly. Depending on the nature of the bug, some stuff is seen as being a bit more complex, as being kind of deferred a little bit. Yes, it's on the list. We're not going to work on it right now, but it's on the list and being left open a little longer. But there's definitely a development pipeline in progress. So maybe it's personal naivete. I think it's going to be a good product when it's done. I've watched the developers kind of work on it here, and they definitely want to put out a good product. They definitely have they have the whole team of developers working on different aspects of the aircraft and trying to improve upon it. In its most basic form, it is kind of usable right now. It's not great. There are glitches even in the FMC. Open stars being closed automatically and things like that. It's really the FMC. It does a lot of the work if you're doing a very basic A to B flight, but there are still glitches with that. It's not great yet by any means. There are issues with it, but the developers definitely are very responsive to the issues. And that's fine. And that's exactly my point. Interesting Story says, thanks for helping out. Hope it does work out. Just be holding off until you know what's up with it. And you know what? That is great. And I wish more people would kind of start off with that attitude. So many people sort of immediately they hear the open access thing, and it immediately triggers bad taste, because there have been airplanes in the past that have been people have been burned by this before. They put in money to an early access airplane, and that's the thing. You don't know what you're getting. You hope that they are going to follow through with it. These guys seem legitimate. They seem like they're legitimately interested in getting a good product out there. Maybe I'm getting the wool pulled over my eyes too. That's always possible. I won't say, I'll try not to be 100% naive. I think part of it's wishful thinking on my part. But they're definitely right now. They're very gung-ho on the development. They want to see this product come to market as a good airplane, and I would love to see that. If they can pull off what they want to do, it'll be fantastic, because the Embraer E175, especially once you get to the low 27 of the FMS, which is kind of the most recent version, which very few airlines were using until at first, it's a very full functioning FMS. Before that, it was sometimes a little bit cheap. Some of the stuff did not quite work as well as it should. The new versions are really, really worlds ahead. And NB Silence said the opposite. I think because I'm still relatively new, I'll put my hat in the ring and pick it up on the 10th. You know what? More power to you. I'll be honest, it's not great right now. It will. you'll probably be able to get a flight done from A to B. You can set up a routing in the FMS, but even setting a routing up on the FMS, there are glitches with it. You're going to have to pay attention to that. There's no VNAV whatsoever at this point. The VNAV is a future. And people complain, oh, there's no VNAV. And there's two sides to that coin, too. Now, I did not watch the release live stream myself because I was working. There were people who were upset because the developer took on an attitude that, oh, nobody uses VNAV, which I take issue with that. VNAV with Low 27 was absolutely huge. It was fantastic and it worked well, and you came to depend on it. You flew it all the time. You used VNAV all the time in the Embraer. That means, so I get people who are upset about that, but at the same time, people who are like, well, you know, you should be releasing an airplane without VNAV. VNAV is incredibly complicated. Ask PMDG. They have spent years tweaking the VNAV in this airplane and still have a hard time. It still misses sometimes. The plans don't quite always work out the way they should. VNAV is an incredibly complicated thing to program. It sounds simple in its idea. Oh, you have a constraint you got to meet right here. That's fine. We'll just start the descent. We'll just work back. We'll start the descent right here, and it's great in theory until you get to the dynamic environment of aviation. The winds are not going to be always as you forecast. Things are just never going to quite work out quite the way they should. Even the airplanes. One airplane to another airplane, there's an ideal performance parameter they should all meet. You bang them on the runway a couple dozen times, a couple hundred times. They're not all as straight and true as they once were. They don't all meet the same performance parameters they once did. So, yeah, the lateral nav can be challenging to program, but that VNAV is just, there's so many parameters. It's such a dynamic environment. It can be a real challenge to program in a VNAV flight VNAV system effectively. And ask PMDG, they've had the VNAV systems for years, but they've had to tweak them and rewrite them over the years because they just don't work as well as they should. And it's been a big challenge for them. It's been a big challenge for a lot of people. I think the fly-by-wire 320 has the same issues. The VNAV has been a real stumbling block. So I get people are disappointed it's not there. It is an essential part of the airplane, but this is a work in progress. But I also get the other side of the fence where anyone who says that the Embraer pilots don't use VNAV doesn't. They might be dealing with some of the older Embraer, but anyone who's flying below 27, VNAV is where it was at. VNAV was very reliable, and we used it all the time. I don't think this generation did, but I think there was a generation that released without VNAV, or it was a very ineffective VNAV. They had lots of issues. They've rewritten the VNAV and the LNAV algorithms a couple of times, and it has proved to be one of the most challenging ones to rewrite, even more than the LNAV. And the funny thing with the LNAV is there's so many different light types. You'd think that would be the challenging one, but with VNAV, it's just there's so much to program in there. It's hard to say. It's hard to get it. It's hard to get effective simulation. Because the other thing too that you got to kind of always remember with these simulators, with flight simulators, is that your computer is simulating a whole bunch of computers. Like there are a number of different computers throughout this airplane, not so much in the 737, maybe more in the 320, but you know, the FMS is a full function like Pentium computer in and of itself that does its own calculations in real time. So you're running a simulation not only of an airplane moving through a dynamic fluid and trying to keep that realistic and all these systems running, but then you're also simulating the running of a computer within your computer. So there's also just a kind of a limitation a little bit sometimes of how much computing power can I really give to the calculation of the VNAV path? How can I do this efficiently that I'm not wasting all of the processor power of your PC just trying to run the VNAV system? So I think that's the other problem too, is that, you know, given an infinite amount of computing power, you can come up with a perfect solution, but you do not have infinite computer power available, so you've got to keep it somewhat efficient, the coding somewhat efficient to the point where the average user's computer can run your FMS computer simulation while it's running everything else. It's running all these systems. It's running, you know, there's an aerodynamic system, a weather system, a time of day system, a lighting system. There's so much running on the computer to make the sim look as good as it does. I think that also is just part of the problem. And it's funny, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was a special edition that was a whole kind of history of the 320 development, and they were talking to an old 320 captain who's been flying the 320 for years. He's like, he's been flying it for decades, probably 20, I think he said close to 20 years, I think he said 19 years. He's like, I remember when we started, like the 320, even though the airplane itself as a basic system hasn't changed that much, there's been so many little updates and tweaks, and he said when we started, like the FMS's the FMSs had such limited processor capacity and they had limited storage space inside that you couldn't even have a secondary flight plan. I think if you had more than 50 waypoints, you were not allowed to copy the main flight plan to the secondary flight plan because there wasn't enough memory. And all the time you get this error that there was not enough memory for something you were doing, even a long flight plan in just in the primary. You'd run out of onboard memory. And then, of course, over the years, all the MCUs, all the flight management systems got upgraded with better computers. But you know, in the beginning, there was a lot of limitations, and it's funny to sort of listen to him talk about some of the limitations that existed back in the old days when they first started flying the 320. It was such a modern machine, but there was the computers that were powering it were fairly limited because that was what was available when it was developed in the 80s. We kind of take for granted all this computing power in front of us, but the 320 is a 1980s airplane. The 737 is a 1960s airplane. You know, the fact that they can jam these computers in here with massive processors doesn't change the fact that it's still a fairly old airplane that was designed, you know, before pretty much the advent of the FMS system. Anyways, I hope I've ranted enough about that, but my basic conclusion is that yes, it is, as of right now, for $30, it's a very, very basic airplane. I almost wish they weren't going into early access, but it was explained that it's kind of an economic necessity. So anyone who wants to do it early access, be aware it's a very basic airplane. The systems work on a very basic level, but they're not detailed systems. The FMS works on a very basic level, but it's not detailed. So definitely go in there with eyes open, knowing it's not a prime-time airplane. Is not polished by any means. And I certainly hope that all advertising that they do does make that clear, and I think they tried to make that clear. I watch those preview videos, and the preview videos, they make it look really good, but it's like only under that perfect use case does it really look that good. The exterior modeling looks really good, but just the modeling of the way the airplane handles the systems, the videos I think were a bit misleading in that it looked like it was a nearly finished product because the visuals looked so good. But yeah, the inside still has a lot of work to do. I think it'll be good in the end. I hope so. I really hope so, because the flight sim community could really use another really good regional jet, and the Embraer is a fantastic regional jet. Anywho, what else can we talk about really quickly here? We're just gonna have to start setting up here for our arrival before too long. But the other thing that is kind of nice, and I'm gonna be happy to celebrate it a little bit, is the fact that after 4 months, I finally finished training, which is a wonderful, wonderful feeling to be finally done training. It's been 4 months of just drinking from the fire hose. Crazy amount of training, crazy amount of information taken in. I've still probably only retained 50% of it, and I need to work on retaining more of it. And it's not to say that I will now stop reading, but even when I was done the check the other day, and literally a guy turned to me and said, normally when I tell people when they reach the stage, I tell them don't read anything for a month. And then he looked at me and said, after having worked with you for a day, I'm not going to tell you that because you're never going to be able to keep your hands off the books for a month. But take a week and don't read anything about the airplane and just enjoy the fact that you've passed and revel in the knowledge you've gained this far. Which is a really kind of a nice thing to say. It's kind of nice to almost have permission to sort of just put the books down for a week even. Because, yeah, you never really put the books down completely. But after this much time learning, it's nice to kind of take a breath and say, you know what, you've learned enough that you can certainly get by at this point. You can get by safely, you can definitely know the job, you definitely know what you're doing with the airplane. So it's very nice to have reached that stage. I definitely won't be able to put the books down for a month, he's right. A week I could probably do. And it's nice to sort of have that official blessing from the checker to say, hey, put the books down, just take some time, go for a walk, do something that doesn't involve airplanes for a day. But then one nice thing about that is that I am going to probably get back to a bit of a more regular schedule. That's going to be a really nice kind of side benefit of finishing the training process, is that I can get back to a more regular schedule. Because when you're in training, you're not on call, but you just never know more than a week or a couple weeks out what days you're going to be working. They can shift it pretty easily. Your days off are never really totally guaranteed. So Christmas was a disaster in terms of trying to find time with everybody because I just didn't know. I didn't know what days I was going to be off. I didn't know what days I was going to be working until like a week or two before. At least now, month by month, I'll have a schedule again. I'll know my days off. I'll be able to work around them. It's not going to be great, I'll be honest, for the streaming, because I'm probably not going to have weekends off anymore. I've been lucky enough to have a lot of no training equals stream every day. No training equals I'm on reserve, I'm going to work every day. I like the attitude. I like the optimism. It kind of means the opposite. The one thing it means is that I'll have a schedule. The bad side is that because I'm at the bottom of the list, it's going to be a bad schedule for the time being. So weekends off are kind of out the window for the time being. My days off are going to probably be requested to be Mondays and Tuesdays for the time going forward. So hopefully maybe Monday or Tuesday evenings I might be able to get a stream in. And the nice thing about flying for Alaska here and kind of flying up and down the west coast is that you know, the hours are a couple hours later. If I do like a 7 o'clock stream on the east coast, it's dark, you know, this time of year already at 7 p.m. But on the west coast, it'll only be 4 p.m. The sun won't go down for an hour or two, so I'll be able to get most of my streams into the daytime because as I've said before, I kind of hate nighttime streaming, and the only reason is because there's not as much to see out the window. Not that I'm really looking out the window now, although there are some nice mountains down there. But like, you really don't see much out the window at all because the codecs kind of really take even what little light you are getting, what little things you are seeing out there, and really just kind of reduce it down to almost no contrast, just a black hole outside. So I really don't like streaming nighttime, and that's the only reason why. Is just because I feel like as a streamer, it's just not very interesting. It's nicer when you can actually see most of the stuff. What I think there. Take myself away for a second here. And there it is. Have a nice couple seconds of gratuitous Dutch roll going on there. Just trying to kind of get some nice external shots so I can have something to put on my title card here. Get that a little bit at the top and the bottom of the title card. Flying over some town down there anyways. So decided to go back. Also nice. Always nice back. And it really is like such a nice model, and the lighting in this image is phenomenal. The way you get that reflection down the fuselage, the way it even looks like you get a little closer in here, and you can see like individual rivets that reflect a little bit more than what's around them. So you can see the rivets reflect a little more, like the detail level sometimes in this thing is just phenomenal, and everything's so nicely rounded. You know, it's not like polygon models as far as you can tell. Everything pretty much looks like it's all rounded. It's a very nice model. I do shift work, so random schedules works fine for me. Yeah, I'm going to be trying to do probably in the future. I think it's going to be Mondays and Tuesdays in the evenings. Probably going to be the days, or maybe even during the day, Monday, Tuesdays, and people are around those days. Or if I feel like I have to time those days, I know it's not the best for a lot of people. I know it's been kind of nice to do it throughout training. I've been able to do weekend streams because generally training, training doesn't happen on the weekends, but I've had as many weekends off as I've ever had to go to work, so definitely I've had the time on weekends. It's going to change. I'm going to be working weekends from now on. It's going to have to be during the week sometime. It's just the way it is. Alright, so I can see our top of descent points coming up there in about 100, just over 160 miles. We're 45 minutes from landing in SFO. So I think now's the time to really kind of start setting up. So let me put myself back up there first. Hey, there I am. Let's start setting up for arrival here. Still no ATC. There's an LAX Center, it's Vancouver Center. There's a Portland ground that we just passed by, so that doesn't help us at all. Oh, but, and literally as I'm looking at it here, either they just came online or they just came into range, but San Francisco ground is online. So we are going to have some ATC. Some ATC is better than no ATC. At least they got me an ATIS. So, got my V-pilot up here. Got my ATIS up, and information Bravo, a 1956 Zulu. So yeah, that's hot off the presses. 105, 10 miles, fuel 2000, scatter 4300. Looks like a nice day down there. 14 degrees, nice, no rain. 3004 on the meter, so I can set that now. I always like this when you can set the meter ahead of time without actually changing the standing setting. I always thought that's a fantastic feature on the Boeing. Simultaneous charted visual procedures in use, landing 28 left, 28 right, departing 1 left, 1 right. Advise you from British Bravo. Okay, so charted visual procedures. So let's pull up the Navigraph again here. Come on, where's my menu? There it is. Navigraph. So let's get our Navigraph up here. Let's have a little look-see at San Francisco. We are making some good, quick progress out there. I spent a lot of time ranting there. I'm going to get kicked out of the early access of the testing program. I hope I was honest and not overly critical. It is a privilege to have access to the airplane ahead of other people, and I don't want to feel like I've abused that. I tried to. I wasn't gonna. I wouldn't have said anything if it wasn't going into early access in 2 days, and they basically said the NDA is lifted at this point. Not 10 left. 28 right and left. Usually 28 right, I think, for arrivals most of the time. So. Tiptoe visual. Quiet bridge visual. GLS from the 28 right. Yeah, I want a GLS system. This thing, so. The other thing we can do is we can do the RNAVs. Quiet bridge visual. So we say like a time frame for it. This sounds like a night procedure right off the bat. This sounds like a night procedure to me. I do like a good challenge. Trying to decide which approach is probably more appropriate here. Alright. Is there any guidance here in the airport info? So 10-9 alpha pages often have some little extra info. No, not much info there. Huh, okay, so I don't know. I'm not sure which approach to use, to be honest. I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping while I'm thinking here, sort of. So the bodega kind of takes you right overhead the field, and then you kind of get circled around. So probably have to do a transition via Eddy. And it's just a question of the tiptoe or the quiet. I think we're going to do the tiptoe visual here. Just trying to see if there's any kind of, looks like the ILS has similar waypoints. It does have Eddy and Sidby, but then it sort of, it takes a little bit more of a left turn there. So I think what we'll do is we'll load up the ILS 28 right via Eddy, and then we'll fly it as the charted visual procedure here. So departure arrival, so I'm pretty sure we put in the ILS 28 right. We're just going to do the Eddy transition, and then that should help us out here. Look at the plan, scroll us along here to kind of see kind of what we're doing here. So come down the arrival, and then yeah, so that's what we're doing. There, that's a pretty good scale right there. So yeah, so Sidby in the tiptoe visual, it does have Eddy and Sidby, and then it takes a very slight left turn to Chira. Chira heading 310 to intercept. So it keeps us just sort of a little more. So after Sidby, we're going to pretty much, can I insert Sidby in the transition there? Or Chira, I mean. So after Sidby can I put Chira in there, or is it not going to allow it? C-H-R-A after Sidby. It does allow it. Nice. I like it. And then I think we'll leave the discon in there. So it's a heading 310, and Siren will leave me kind of that final final approach path on there that I can look at. So let's do that. We'll need the ILS 28 right, so 111.7, 284. So 111.7 and 284. $11.7, 284. Set course on your side, 284. Set course on your side, 284.
284 set.
There he goes, he did it. Alright, so we got that, the minimums, because it's the visual, we really don't have any minimums. So we're just going to leave the minimums off. Alright, and so let's just have a quick, again, look through here and step through this whole thing and make sure we got everything we're supposed to have in here. So, Bodega 3 RNAV arrival starts at Millbeck, there it is, Millbeck, at or above 290. Alright, so 10-2 Alpha, yep, okay, so Millbeck above 290, Johnny 280 between 28 and 24, Bigelow at 280 between 230 and 190. Lozit, 280 knots below 16,000. Bodega below 13,000. Cork at 250 at 11,000. Bricks 250 at 11,000. And then basically we're over at the field. We start a southeasterly heading, and that should swing us around nicely for the Visions 28 right. I thought I tagged these up, but I did not. So we are planning to do the tiptoe visual to runway 28 right in San Francisco here, so that's all in there. And we'll go around 28 right, heading 280, climb maintain 3,000. Western by traffic control. Okay, so yeah. Alright, so let's do the full proper briefing. You have control.
I have control.
Are you ready for the approach briefing?
Go ahead.
There we go, nice. I like it when it triggers the first time without me having to repeat myself 3 times. Alright, so, as I said, we are doing the Bodega 3 RNAV arrival to start off with into San Francisco. Actually, you know what I didn't do? I didn't set up a flap setting. We'll do flap 30, and we'll do auto brake 2. And what I should actually be doing as well, before I do this briefing, or as part of this briefing, is should make sure that I have all this filled out so that it makes the calls the appropriate points. So star, we'll call it visual, landing flap 30, leads on, runway try, auto brake 2, single engine taxi, no, gate, APU will delay the start, threats, say terrain around San Francisco, final sector, no, minimum altitude, 550 is fine because we don't really have one, 3,000 is the missed approach altitude, just 0 actually on here. And the final approach fix, do we have a final approach fix on the tiptoe visual? Let's see here. I call 6.9 DME basically at about 1500, so let's call that the FAF 1500 for this one. And then you can either run the brief, but at least this information is in here because the FO actually acts on this information here, so it's kind of good to have it set up. Alright, what am I going to do with this? I'll just minimize that for now. Alright. Yeah. So we got through the Bodega 3 arrival. The Bodega 3 arrival, it's all as briefed, radar required, RNAV1, DDR, GPS required. And we've checked all the waypoints, they are all in there. We are planning the tiptoe visual to runway 28 right in San Francisco. So it's 111.7, 284, the inbound course. And the localizer frequency that we're going to track for the final part of the approach. No FAF on this. Refer to minimums, weather minimums. 2,500 feet, 5 miles. We've got few at 28, scattered at 43. So yeah, we should be able to do this. Airport elevation's at 13 feet. We do have 0 feet set on the cabin altitude. Sector altitude north of the VOR, which is basically at the field, is 5,100 feet. Missed approach for runway 28 right, heading 280. Climb maintain 3,000 north directed by ATC, so it'll be pretty much straight ahead. 280, climb maintain 3,000. Radars require closely spaced parallel vision approach, maybe progress, vertical guidance at navigate angle. Yeah, slope 3 degree, actually 28. Yeah, 28 right to 3 degrees, stand 3 degree slope. So what we're going to do is we are going to self-vector around to Eddy, make sure we're at above 6,000 Eddy, Sid be at above 5,000, go to Chira. From Chira, it's a 310 heading, and intercept the localizer there at about 9.2 miles final, at or above 2,300 feet. So 6,000, 5,000, kind of a hustle to get down here, make sure we're down on that glide slope. Landing to 8 right in San Francisco. Planned exit's probably going to be, usually ends up being Quebec, something around there. Maybe we can make Delta, which has kind of got a little bit of a high-speed turnoff. And let me just look up a gate for this flight. No, KSEA. Search. All right. So there's an Alaska flight on its way right now. And let's see here, it's going to go to gate Delta 9 in San Francisco. So let's have a look at the parking gates here. Delta 9. Here's Delta 9. Right here, pretty much all smack dab in the middle. So we'll probably take Alpha all the way around to Delta 9. And that's where we will park. Terrain, there is higher terrain close to the airport, not super high, but definitely a couple thousand feet, 5,100 feet to the north, so we'll keep an eye on the terrain. We'll have the terrain awareness page up. Let me think here. Operational, let's just have a quick look and see if any NOTAMs here. San Francisco. Traffic management program today. Not worried about that on VATSIM. Position, center line lighting, shoulder marking, signs, and of course the airport radio altimeter unreliable. Icons, everything was 555 observed at 1922 yesterday, so that's pretty old for it. I'm going to go with this trolley dry given all the conditions here today. And approach procedures, ILS 28 right, procedure NA approved. Okay, Cat 2, yeah, that's fine. Or SA Cat 1s. That's fine, and that's it. That's all we've got. Weather appears to be a beautiful day. It's 2,800-foot view. And let's see here. Progress page. We're showing 8.2 overhead San Francisco. Our mid-div, I believe, was 5.8. I think it was less than 6 anyway. So we definitely got at least 2 tons of extra. So we can definitely do a missed approach, do a go around, come back and try it again at least once or twice, or hold for at least 20 to 30 minutes, maybe more. We've got 2 tons of excess fuel at this point. Any questions?
No questions.
I have control. I have control. I have control. Oh, he's doing a procedure. I wish he'd respond to, because now he's listened to it, he's recorded that as a response, but because he's kind of doing his descent procedure, whatever is in it, he's not going to do anything.
You have control. You have control. You have control.
And now my FO is stuttering. Alright, it's not a perfect system, but it is generally pretty immersive and works pretty well. Alright, I think we got everything. The other thing we need right now is a company frequency. I don't know what the last company frequency would be, but we'd set that on COM 2. What I didn't actually do all day was set COM 2 properly at 10,000 feet. I was supposed to set guard. There we go. It's a nice, he had the fish. Oh, I love it. I love it. I muted that. He had the fish, yeah. Had a little bit of uncontrollable stuttering going on there, but that's fine. You ever been into a Turkish prison there, Jimmy? Timmy? I can't remember what his kid's name was. Oh, what a great movie. One of these days, my kids are gonna have to watch that movie. Maybe like, they're probably not gonna get half the jokes. But one of these days, these kids will watch that movie. A little snowy up here. Some snowpack going on. We get a little further south. Looks like the snowpack kind of diminishes. See the Pacific off there to the west? Not really. It's kind of hazy off in that direction, but it's gonna come here soon. Got the weather radar up. It's probably not gonna do much. It's funny because some aircraft seem to have adopted the weather radar into the sim nicely here, but it doesn't look like PMDG has yet integrated it, because it looks like there must be an API that outputs that weather now, because some airplanes seem to have that weather radar function now. PMDG does not seem to have gotten that point, or maybe they're not happy with the API yet. I don't know. I have to say, it's nice to have terrain now in all these aircraft. It was something that was missing for a long time for most of the aircraft was terrain, and now at least we have terrain. Because it was so weird flying through these mountains, and you know, you could bring up the terrain screen, it would do nothing. Bring up the weather radar screen, do nothing. Just no information coming in. Oh well. Anyways, we're only about 20 minutes, not even, probably about 10 minutes away from our top of descent, so it's looking good. So if there's anything you guys want to ask while we're here, we got a couple more minutes before we start down. Please feel free to ask right now, otherwise we're going to start this arrival process. But I did it again. I think I just tapped the trim wheel as I'm moving mine. Yeah. Not A, B. A. Oh, crying out loud. There you go. Me and my fat mouse pressed the wrong button. No, I think I've got the honeycomb throttle quadrant, and every time I kind of free it right, my cable is kind of a little bit just rubbed on the underside. I think it drags the trim wheel ever so slightly and moves the trim wheel, and that disconnects the autopilot. I'm just curious, that should be doing it. Yeah, so if I move the trim wheel myself, intentionally, that takes the autopilot off. So that's what I'm doing. I keep on, my wire goes right underneath the trim wheel, my headset wire goes right underneath the trim wheel. This is the life. Just sit here quietly, sipping your coffee, enjoying a view of the mountains on our way down to San Francisco, where we'll probably have a nice couple days layover, ride the cable cars a little bit maybe. San Francisco seems like a fun city. I've never actually been there. It's a city that I would like to visit. I'm looking forward to hopefully visiting it sometime in the next couple months. It seems like a nice place to visit. That's the interesting thing about taking a new job now is new destinations, new places, new airports. A lot of the same old airports, but some new airports as well that I haven't been to before, so that'll be kind of fun. Set this to 3004 as well, since it's a lot higher than that 2958 we had down in Seattle. Make sure that's ready to go as well. 3004, perfect. Keep an eye out. Maybe we'll get a Seattle, the NorCal approach online, but some beautiful mountains. And even the way the transition happens with the snow, it's quite good. There is a bit of a defined line kind of there in the kind of the midsection, but like right over here where it just sort of like it melts into the valleys, you see little streams poking up in some areas. I have to say, like, the snow effects on this sim are also pretty well done, considering like the you know, snow cover seems like an interesting, an easy concept again at first glance. It'll make the world white, but like dealing with it in a realistic fashion with scenery like this is not really that easy. You know, depending on the time of year, the depth of the snow, some things will kind of retain snow well, like open ground will kind of retain snow pretty well, whereas the trees will kind of block it. It won't stick to the trees as much. You know, pavement, often, you know, the snow will melt off the pavement before it melts off the surrounding grass. There's a lot of variables when it comes to modeling snow. So I give a lot of credit to myself. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it a very good compromise where it does look pretty good a lot of the time? I'd say, yeah, it's a pretty good compromise. The transition might be a little bit kind of sudden, and especially considering like the trees look green. It's a shame that like if they're not snow covered, the trees are always green. Because in winter, you often end up with two colors. You end up with white and brown. Trees are brown, and the ground is white. So to see the kind of transition, it would look a lot more realistic if the trees were just brown here instead of white. I think that would really kind of, and then the snow cover shift, the snowpack is shifting as we go here. And all sense of realism is lost. Damn it. Alright, 21.8. Just going to tune up that ground frequency now, because once we clear the runway, it's going to be a pretty quick taxi in, but we're going to need to have that frequency ready, and he will swap this frequency for me. Which is kind of nice. So if I've got that ready, I can even tell the FO to program a frequency for me, and he'll do it. So we are getting pretty close to our top of descent here, so let's go ahead and set the bottom altitude on our star, because we've got no ATC. 11,000 feet is the bottom altitude, down it goes. And this will be about the time where you do flight attendants 30 minutes to landing. PA, so the flight attendants know how much time they have, start cleaning up the cabin, get ready for the arrival. Now you can see the Pacific kind of arcing nicely into view there. Across Etchy, we're going to sort of veer a little bit to the left, to the east, and just follow it right down to the San Francisco Bay Area. So hopefully we get a nice view of San Francisco as we fly over. I imagine that city's been pretty well detailed. But even leaving Seattle, like I am reasonably impressed with the Seattle airport that Asobo has put together. That was a default Seattle. I know there's better Seattle out there. I was so tempted to buy it. I ended up not buying it, mostly just for economic reasons. Like I only have so much money to spend on simming, and I can't necessarily buy every single airport that I want to fly to. And it's a little bit disappointing because this season we're going to be in Seattle a lot. So I kind of, I almost gave into it, and I said, no, the existing version is very acceptable. The Asobo version is very acceptable. It's not perfect. It's not fantastic, but it's good. It's better than auto-generated default scenery. It's definitely better than auto-generated. There are some custom models. It does sort of, it gives you a bit of a feel of Seattle at least. So there's other airports that we're going to visit on this season that I did not have at all. And it was just going to be a default airport, and I went and looked at them and I was like, these look terrible. Like, I need some scenery. I almost refuse to fly to unimproved airports now. And I'm willing to accept, in most cases, the Microsoft Flight Simulator, the Asobo airports, because they generally are fairly well done. They're probably about 50% of the effort you would see a real developer put in. 50 or 60% of the effort you'd see a full payware developer put in. But they're certainly better than the default models that you get at the other airports that have never had anything done. These default models sometimes are pretty horrendous. You end up with this small little 4,000 foot, grass strip, or even a paved strip, but like a very small local airport in the middle of America, and it's got like a 75 foot tall control tower. It's like there's no way the real control tower is like as tall as like the control tower in San Francisco or Seattle or something. It's a small airport, but that's the only kind of stock model that exists in the scenery, so that's the one that was plopped down there. Alright, there's our descent. Descent checklist.
Descent checklist. Pressurization. Landing altitude is 0 feet. Recall checked. Auto brake. Level 2. The landing data.
VREF 150. Minimums 0 feet. Zero feet. 0 feet.
VREF 150. No DH set. Approach briefing.
Completed.
Descent checklist complete.
Thank you. Nice. Alright, that was a pretty reasonable leg length though for today. Definitely got some nice time to chat about the stuff I wanted to chat about anyway, so we've got another 25 minutes to landing. If you guys have any questions, something you want to ask about PMDG, please let me know. Not going to be failing anything today. We should have automatic failures on in here, service-based failures, but I'm not going to be failing anything today because we just don't have enough people watching. And I set targets, and I don't have enough people watching today for me to consider a failure. So unfortunately, that's it. I'm not going to do a failure if I don't have enough people watching. If I get enough people watching the stream, then I will fail something. So let's see here. Aircraft, there's failures, all systems. Service-based failures are yes. So we do have service-based failures in there. Nothing has failed yet. Maybe something will fail one day. Alright, we're going to cross first restrictions, mill back at or below 290. Looks like we're going to make that one just fine. I slide the heading plug back over. We're just going to make a turn back to the right in a second anyways. Now you just start to see the inlet there, the San Francisco Bay inlet coming into sight there, off in the distance. It does not look like winter out here anymore. We have crossed south of the winter line. I think this is going to be a fun season, though. What do we do next? We go back to Portland. Is the next thing we do, right? Schedule. Do San Francisco back to Portland, so it's a little bit shorter. It's about an hour and 45-minute flight instead of about 2 hours and 10 minutes. So, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a shorter one. And we do Portland down to Burbank and back to Seattle. So we're going to be kind of in and out of both Portland and Seattle this season, which is kind of nice. We'll get it done eventually here. Little cloudy down there. I did turn the anti-ice off a long time ago, right? Yeah, I did. Yep. Nice to see a nice VNAV profile being flown here. Just have a quick look at the pilot and see if there's anything happening around here besides just the fact the ground's online. Oh, we got a bunch of departures. You get a ground control, you get a bunch of departures. We got a couple of arrivals too. Got a United flight that's coming in. They're probably getting there a little ahead of us. And a Delta flight. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit busy by the time we get down there. There's 4 departures on the ground getting ready to go. So that's good. Yeah, we're going to get a little bit of traffic there. So I don't think I'm going to pull up the FSLTL library. We will see some traffic as we go down there. Now, there were speed restrictions on this arrival here. 280 knots at Johnny and Bigelow. So let's just do the speed intervention. Let's hit that 280 knots at Johnny and Bigelow here. That is our speed restriction. It wasn't below, at or below, it was at. And that's the thing, is that if your programmed economy descent speed or cruise speed is less than what's the restrictions that are given here, it's just not going to respect these restrictions. So if it says at 280 and because of your cost index, your descent speed is 275, you're just going to continue trucking along at 275. It'll never go faster to meet these restrictions. The Airbus does the same thing. Boeing and the Airbus do the same thing. They won't go faster than your economic speed to meet restrictions, so you may have to occasionally manually interfere. So Johnny and Bigelow. Once we pass Bigelow, Lawson's also at 280. So basically we got to set 280 and just stick to it now. That's okay. We can do that. We are coming down towards San Francisco. It looks a little bit kind of hazy down there, a little foggy perhaps. And I believe this is one of the other inbounds that we're going to be following in there. I think. Yeah, it's the only one that's around here, so that's the United flight that's leading us into San Francisco. So we'll just keep our eyes open for him, make sure we don't run over him. Looks like a very nice day up the coast though, so definitely be a great day to head to the hotel, go for a walkabout, find somewhere nice to eat dinner. And definitely not a bad day for flying too. I mean, you didn't see much when we were leaving Seattle, but you're seeing quite a bit out here now. A little airport down there. Sometimes it's just fun to watch the world go by. Pretty much facing him. He's 400 feet below us, and he's descending at exactly the same rate we are. We're sticking with the exact same kind of vertical profile here. He's also flying at 37. I imagine he probably is. I would think this would be an absolutely beautiful coast too to do a bush tour of as well. Unable 280 knots at big low. That's okay. We're getting 280 knots tuned in manual. It's all good. I was thinking that, like, from LA up to, like, Seattle or even Vancouver, even from San Diego all the way up to Vancouver, do that as, like, I'm surprised it isn't, like, one of the bush trips, because it's absolutely just phenomenal just kind of sailing up the U.S. West Coast here. There's some absolutely beautiful scenery, mountains, fly past some busy airports, some iconic landmarks like the Golden Gate, the Space Needle, and all that. Like, it would be a really fantastic bush tour to do that kind of down low in, like, a DA-40 or something like that, where you're not really moving too fast. You get a chance to really kind of take in the scenery. Some of those Microsoft Flight Simulator bush trips are really quite fun in their own way. They're really kind of neat adventures. You get to see some really great scenery, and they just sort of lead you to some places you might not otherwise go. So I always really kind of like those bush tours. I'm a big fan of them. I think they're overall well executed. They occasionally have some waypoints that are not well described that are not easy to spot. But I like to look at them, and I think I've said this before. I like to look at them as a treasure hunt in a way. A scavenger hunt. You have this most basic description. You have to determine, like, you know, is what I'm looking at correct? Does it match the scenery that I'm supposed to be looking at here? All right, get down there. Unable 280 knots at Lawson as well. The next speed after that is Cork at 250. So once we pass Lawson, we can put it back into managed speed mode there. Approaching transition. What do I have to say here? Surprised it doesn't have the voice prompt there. Transition set 3004 inches.
Three 004 set.
There, perfect. Sometimes it's pretty instinctive what you got to say. Sometimes not. Sometimes you really have to kind of think about it. You have to kind of research a little bit, but sometimes it's quite instinctive. It's kind of what I'm expecting. All right, he's losing altitude a little faster than we are. That's fine. That'll keep him ahead of us. It's going to work out very nicely. We're going to follow him around over the airport and around base to final. Alright, so Lawson is the last 280 knots restriction. Looks like we're going to kind of fall in behind him somewhere near Vega. Other airplanes, how nice. It's been a bit of a quiet day on Unicom so far. Start hearing some departures out of San Francisco. If the ground controller just logged on, then all these airplanes probably logged on just because he was there, so they're getting set up. So within the next 10 to 15 minutes, they'll probably start departing. Probably start hearing some departures soon here. Alright, so Lawson is 16,000 or below. Well, we made that restriction, no problem there. Just coming up over the Pacific here. Just see kind of where San Francisco Bay is. The whole Bay Area is kind of coming into sight here, but there's some cloud decks there, so we may not see all that much until we get underneath them. Hopefully we break out. We should put the ILS minimums on there just in case we have to switch to the ILS. There's not that much difference to the ILS. ILS minimums, so I think I'm going to put the ILS minimums on there just in case we have to switch to the ILS, then at least we're set up. So 213. I think we're going to get the visual, I really do. But just sort of, I'm getting to that point where now I'm starting to think, turning final single pilot is not when I want to be looking up the ILS minimums. And the missed approach is kind of the same, 280 and 3,000 feet. Very similar missed approach from the ILS to the, yeah. At least this way we're kind of ready now. I just have kind of a low rumble at this this power setting here. I just feel it in my ears. It seems like they have very much the same strategy as New York has, like bring them almost overhead the field. If you're coming in from the north, it seems like all the descents happen on the south. Just get vectored around on the south side for the arrivals. Alright. So we passed Lozit, so we can cancel the managed speed, or cancel the manual speed, put a managed speed back in there. So it's loaded to 277. It's going to cross Cork at 11,000. Keep trucking along at Cork at 11,000 here. 12 miles. Once we get past that last fix bricks, we'll start down.
Traffic, Delta 60 on final runway 28 right, 11 miles out. San Francisco traffic.
Alright, another departure. Got all sorts of stuff going on. And let's just bring up that approach chart again, because I just want to see the MSA 4500. So yeah, so we can even go down to 4500 to get past Eddie, but Eddie's supposed to be mandatory 6,000, so we'll go with 6,000. Once we pass overhead San Francisco, we'll chop and drop to 6,000. And, oh, there it is. There's the Gold Gate Bridge down there. Beautiful. Right over downtown San Francisco there. Nice. Very nice. And there's the airport right there. We got to go past it, circle around.
1,011.
Roger. How's our tap in here? +4 is not bad, but we do need to get the engine interface on for that. Engine interface is on. It's full, descending 11,000. Past it, circle around left, land right there, taxi in. Right there's our gate. Nice. There's the Bay Bridge right there. Also looking pretty good from all the way up here.
San Francisco traffic, Delta 5 on final 28 right, 5 miles.
Okay, so let's get the window open.
San Francisco traffic, good afternoon. United 305 is on a approximately 10 miles from September to the Hollywood localizer runway 28 right approach, coming in after the current aircraft is to the final.
San Francisco traffic, Alaska 146, just about to come overhead the field, 11,000 feet, descending south side for visual 28 right behind United. Past it and take off this heading. We got to get to Eddie 6,000. If we can turn in even earlier than that, then we'll do it. Use 5,000 at Sidby, right? Go visual 5. Eddie 6,000, Sidby at or above 5,000. Yeah. So just truck along level for a couple miles here. And actually, we are level. Put it alt hold here. Go ahead and put 6,000 down there for the Eddie altitude. This is heading, it's a 140 track, so I'll put heading 140 on there right now. Pretty much overhead the field. There's bricks, 11,000 feet. There it goes. It is going to fly that vector, which is perfect. And we can go ahead and level change to 6,000 feet. Approach checklist.
Approach checklist. Altimeters.
3004 inches set.
3004 set. Approach checklist complete.
United 305, joining the localizer for ILS runway 28 right, San Francisco.
Alright, and down we go. So we got idle thrust coming down. I don't even see where we're going to hit 6,000 here. There's the arc. Perfect. Truck around right to heading 6,000.
San
Working really
Francisco
nicely.
traffic, Delta 60, clear runway 28 right.
NorCal approach online yet? No? Perfect. Alright. It's almost too late at this point. I mean, it would be nice to have them. They would probably help us out and figure out something. But, not holding out hope anyways at this point. Oh, and that's probably United right there. I don't know if you can see him right there, but just a little dot. Just a little bright colored dot right there. On
10,000.
Yeah, he's got all the lights.
Cabin crew, prepare for landing.
San Francisco traffic United 305, established Dallas 28 right, San Francisco.
I've flown to this airport quite a lot because there's often ATC on here. It's kind of a nice kind of destination for a West Coast flight. Look forward to going here one day in the real world. One day. Ay, ay, ay. Alright, so it's going to work out really nicely. We're going to hit Eddie at 6,000, turn back around, come back to that typical visual to 2-8, right? I need a little bit of speed brake to help it out. What are we doing in
Traffic United 305, 7
Get a
miles
little
final
speed
on
brake out there just to
28
hold
right.
that descent rate. Gonna kind of keep going. We're almost a beam eddy and then do a direct too. Looks like it's pretty clear with San Francisco Bay there, so we should be able to spot the visual once we get turned around.
Make sure your seatbelt is securely fastened and all carry-on luggage is stowed underneath the seat in front of you or an overhead bin. Please turn off all electronic devices until we are safely parked at the gate. Thank you.
Traffic United 305, short final on runway 28 right.
Alright. It's pretty close to a beam there. I think it's good enough at this point. Direct eddy. LNAV, direct eddy. Cross it at about 6,000. Should be at about 5,000 for visual. And once we get turned back around here, I think we'll get the speed coming back again. Next heading we're going to need is 310. That's 7,000 setting 6,000. 310 after Shira. That's ready to go. That's +9. We're almost warm enough to get rid of the engine anti-ice here. Have to keep it at 10 degrees below. Alright, there's the MCP speed I'll require. And go figure now NorCal's on. Nope, there's San Francisco there. It's a little late now. Now he's telling me they're switching to an E-stops. Ay, it's like we're already on like the base leg for the 28s. That's all part of the joy of being part of the VATSIM network. Okay, so we're good down to 5,000. 5,000. And then we're going to need to get start hustling down here actually. Now we might need a little speed brake to help us out here. slow down and go down. There's 5,000, so at this point I can do 3,000. San Francisco traffic, Alaska 146 is on a left base for visual runway 28 right. Alright. And let's go flaps 1. Flaps 1.
Speed check.
So let's go all the way to flaps 5.
Speed check.
Supposed to be on heading 310.
Checked. Flaps 5 set.
Kind of hustling now because we kind of got a little distracted there at the wrong moment.
Flight deck. Okay, thanks. Captain, the cabin is secure.
300. Yeah, we are way high here. Gear down. Flaps 15.
Checked.
Again, I touched the trim wheel. Flaps 15.
Speed check. Speed breaker. Flaps 15 set.
What happened to my localizer here? That's weird. Alright. Autopilot's off because something happened to the localizer there.
Checked. Speed check. Flaps 10. Checked.
Flaps 20. Flaps 25.
Speed check. Flaps 25 set.
Flaps 30.
Check your speed.
Flaps 30.
Check your speed.
Flaps 30.
Speed check. Flaps 30 set.
San Francisco traffic, Alaska 146, a 5-mile final runway 28 right.
Roger.
Landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Engine star switches.
Continuous.
Double check that, please. Speed brake.
Armed.
Landing gear.
Down.
Flaps.
Flaps 30, green light.
Landing checklist complete.
Alright, coming on the slope now. Boy, that was a high approach though.
Checked.
I think I had to get that down.
Checked.
And for some reason, now it's armed, but for some reason VOR load did not arm
Checked.
properly. That's why you take control. If it's not doing what you want, you take control, you fly yourself.
Checked.
Apparently, PFO was stable.
Stable.
We do have a 10-knot tailwind now.
Minimums.
Continue.
And Delta 1255, switch for
Speed break up. Reverse is normal.
Roger.
Yeah, ground advice.
Checked.
Okay, stop.
Water brake disarmed. 60 knots.
For traffic of 2676 lining up, 10 right.
And San Francisco traffic, Alaska 146, clearing at 28 right to see the traffic lining up. Do you want us to hold for your departure?
Set.
And San Francisco traffic on Shamrock 960 points, sort of Zulu 1, 10 right.
And Alaska 146, we'll hold short of 10 right to the departing traffic.
I appreciate it. Delta 2676 departing 10 right. For traffic.
Alright, let's get the lights off. See the departing traffic there. So yeah, they switched directions, but if the guy tells you when you're base to final, it's a little bit late to be switching runways. San Francisco traffic, Alaska 146 crossing runway 10 right.
Checked.
San Francisco traffic on Shamrock 960 lining up runway 10 right.
Clear left. Wow, he used up every inch of that runway, didn't he?
For traffic of 2676 clear about right.
Alaska 146, clear of 10 right. Ground hello, Alaska 146, clear of 10 right now, and go to gate Delta 9.
Alaska 146, San Francisco ground, ramp, taxi ramp via Bravo 1 Alpha.
Bravo 1 Alpha to the ramp, Alaska 146, thanks. Alright, so Bravo 1 Alpha's the inners. Bravo 1 Alpha, this guy's already done the after landing flow for me. Yeah, unfortunately when I'm turning base to final, it's a little bit too late to be talking about changing runways. Especially without a vector, places I don't know. It's just, it's a bit too much. And this is kind of, you know, we all got to play the game nicely. Like at the end of the day, that's it.
San Francisco ground American 386.
You don't always have ATC online. It doesn't always work out the way it should. And plain and simple.
American 386, San Francisco
It
ground.
just doesn't always work out the way it should. You know, you don't get information in a timely fashion sometimes. You know, if I'd known that if I'd known sooner that the ATIS had changed and they switched operations.
American 386, clear to the Portland International Airport, City 3 departure. Grateful transition, then it's filed.
There wasn't
Squawk 3273.
Thank you. Alaska's Alaska choice here, no? But yeah, the new ATIS would have come out right now, so I wouldn't have checked an ATIS again until now if I had didn't have a reason to. So if there's nobody there to tell you, to prompt you to check another ATIS, you know, the ATIS that was valid an hour ago, you assume it's still valid for 60 minutes. So, anyways, these things happen. It wasn't ideal. We still all worked it out together, and that's the nice thing is that most people on this network
just some settings here. You repeat.
Generally play nicely together.
Cleared to the Portland International Airport, City 3 departure. Grateful transition, then is filed. Climb via SID, Squawk 3273.
Further along here. But yeah, I mean, we all played nicely together. Nobody departed while I was landing. And then, so I played nicely and said, I'll hold short for one person to depart. And then it kind of really works out nicely. The next person can get lined up. I can scoot across. And it kind of works out nicely for everybody. But yeah, I mean, we can all be jerks about it, or we can be nice about it.
It's going to be the City 3.
It's a lot easier when we all try to get along nicely.
Can you give me the squawk code again, please?
Squawk 3273.
Especially like single pilot, like changing runways at the last minute is a lot.
American 36 readback is correct. It's information Charlie is current. Expect runway 10 right for departure.
Airport today,
on discretion, come ready for taxi.
Alright, Alright, Delta 9 to one of these ones kind of around the corner here that faces the runway intersection. It's one of the last ones. It's almost smack dab in the middle. So anyways, we're going to look for a marshaller. Can't quite read those signs from here. So we're going to look for a marshaller to get around the corner here. But somewhere here.
to crossing Texas. Delta 282, give way to the left to A320, moving left to right on Alpha, then runway 10 right, taxi via Alpha, Bravo 1, Zulu,
I'm locking this at 320. I might have.
Alpha, Bravo,
Oh well.
1,
It doesn't matter.
Bravo, Zulu,
VATSIM.
01, we'll wait for the Alaska, and Delta 282.
Lights and doors.
282, it's going to be Bravo,
Check.
Alpha, Bravo 1, Zulu, Zulu 1.
Alright, so I see the marshaller.
Cabin crew, disarm doors across check.
Oh, and there's
Doors disarmed,
sign on the
no
pavement.
It's going
APU.
to be Alpha,
Check.
Bravo
Love it.
1, Zulu,
Roger.
Zulu 1.
Alright, so taxi lights
Alpha,
off.
Bravo, Bravo 1, Zulu, Zulu 1. Delta 282.
We made it. We didn't run into any other airplanes. Despite the issues, we didn't run into anybody, so that's good.
Roger.
Stop answering everything I say. Oh, sometimes it's just funny. We never started the APU. Ah, you idiot. Oh,
Yeah, that
that's my
161
idiot.
heavy, runway
I'm an
10 right, taxi via Alpha, Bravo 1, Zulu, Zulu 1.
Alright, well we can shut down one engine. We have to wait a second before we shut down the second engine. Ah, fail. What are you gonna do, right? Hit start. Give another 20 seconds here. We'll have the APU available.
And if it's the ground, good day.
Alright, that was a mistake on my part. People make mistakes. I'll be the first to admit it. Should have seen that coming. I was a little distracted by talking about things.
Ground, taxi the ramp via Alpha. By Alpha,
In the real world, probably the FO would have said something. But that being said, we're both human beings. If we're chatting about something or something distracts us, we might both not realize till we turn into the gate that, hey, there's no APU. There we go. Now we get the APU, we can kill the other engine.
Delta 282, give way to United Dreamliner, moving left to right on Alpha.
And
We will give way to the Dreamliner, United in front of us, Delta 282.
shutdown check.
Stand by.
Hopefully he'll give it to me as soon as he's done here. Shutdown checklist.
Shutdown checklist. Fuel pumps off. Propane. Auto. Hydraulic panel set. Flaps.
Zero. Up. Up.
Parking brake.
Set.
Engine start levers.
Cut off.
Weather
To
radar.
the Chicago O'Hare International
Off.
Airport.
Shutdown checklist complete.
Orca transition.
All right, and we're
filed.
done.
Climb via,
Turn this guy
climb via
Right.
SID,
down a
squawk
bit here.
3256.
And that's it. We are done, everybody. We're going to offload. We're going to go ahead and ask GSX to offload everybody. I turned down the background there,
The boarding request.
but we did get it done.
Yeah,
Were there
739,
mistakes
redact
made? Yes, there were mistakes made. It wasn't perfect. All right, I made some mistakes along the way. I'm kind of out of touch with the 737, but I will learn from that. I will remember the mistakes I made today. I'll be embarrassed by them a little bit, but I will probably not make them again. But in the meantime, yeah, I think I heard the ding there. Please remember to submit your flight. Go over here quickly to the flight page, submit it, and our flight is now done for the first leg of Season 9 of my pilot's life career. We did Seattle, San Francisco, all went pretty well. I imagine the score was not too bad on it. Few flubs here and there, change of runway at the last minute here with nobody telling me until we're base to final. It's a little bit late for changing runways, so. Yeah, but overall, it went pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. So next up is San Francisco to Portland. check the logbook, see what kind of a scoring I got here. I usually get in the high 90s. 92. What did I do to get only 92? I must have made a couple of mistakes here. Max pitch angle is 20 degrees. I failed that. That's where I lost this. And then landing light at 10,000 feet. All right, yeah, on departure. It seemed like we did pitch up pretty far there, but that's okay. But yeah, nevertheless, we are done. We're done for the day. I think we're going to call it a day there. We're not going to do another leg because the next leg is another hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes back to Portland. So it's definitely not what we're going to do today. So we're going to call it a day there. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed that. That was definitely fun. It's nice to get to a new airplane, and this Alaska airplane really does look clean and new and shiny, doesn't it? It looks really kind of nice down there. And San Francisco's a fun little airport to get into. Maybe I could have done the runway change. Maybe I was just being a bit of a cop-out. But especially without someone to vector you, kind of watch you while you're doing this change, without an actual real FO to put in the changes. Like, it would have been a lot of work to rebrief completely for an east arrival. So I don't think anyone really resented me too much. What can you do? Like, when you're advertising one runway, I mean, you advertise it on the ATIS, you advertise a west arrival, and then within 40 minutes he's changing it, but like, I don't know, check the ATIS again.
Change approved. Have a good day.
Anywho, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you had fun. Stick with the Discord. I'll try to announce when the next one's coming up. I don't know when it's going to be, but it probably will be, like I said, a Monday or Tuesday, a week or so from now. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope it all goes well, and happy 2023, everybody. Welcome to Season 9. We'll keep on going, we'll keep on trucking, and we'll see you all out there in those friendly VATSIM skies. Take care.